Good evening, friends. Tonight I've got some of the most disturbing YouTube encounters you'll ever hear. Make sure you hit that subscribe button now, because if you don't, you'll miss the next upload, and the next one might be even darker. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I'm curious who's brave enough to watch this after midnight. I never thought I'd be the kind of person writing something like this online. I used to laugh at the creepy stories people posted on Reddit, thinking most of them were just written for attention. But this has been happening for too long, and it's too specific to dismiss. Maybe someone will read this and know what I should do. I run a small YouTube channel, nothing special, mostly commentary videos and little short films I shot with friends. At the time this all began, I had around 12,000 subscribers. That's not enough to feel like a celebrity, but enough that you start to think people are paying attention. The first time I noticed something off was after I uploaded a simple test video. I had just gotten a new camera and wanted to see how it looked in my bedroom at night. Nothing staged, nothing edited, just me sitting on my desk chair with the blue curtains hanging behind me. Later that evening, I checked the comments, and one jumped out at me. The blue curtains don't really block the light, do they? I tried to brush it off, telling myself the curtains were visible in the video, so maybe it wasn't that weird, but it still felt personal, like the person wasn't just commenting on what they saw, but on something they knew. From that night on, every single video I posted, no matter what it was about, got a comment from the same account. Even unlisted videos that I uploaded for just a few minutes to test something privately had a comment within minutes. The username kept changing, but the voice of the messages felt the same. Sometimes it was a jumble of random letters. Other times it was a normal-sounding name like Mike Turner or Sarah J. But I knew it was the same person. At first, the comments were strange observations that seemed harmless, but they unsettled me anyway. Half your dinner's still on the plate, don't waste food. That shampoo you switched to smells too strong. The reflection in your glasses gives you away. None of these things had ever been mentioned in my videos. They weren't even details you could easily guess. I live with two roommates, Evan and Jonah, and I asked both of them repeatedly if they were messing with me. They swore they weren't. Evan joked that if he was going to stalk me, he'd at least wait until my channel blew up to 100,000 subs. But neither of them looked like they were hiding anything. I tried deleting the comments as soon as I saw them, but no matter how fast I acted, they'd come back. If I blocked the account, another one would appear. It was like playing whack-a-mole with someone who never slept. Then one night I uploaded a vlog just after midnight in seconds. Later a new comment appeared. It said, "Stop pretending you can't see me in the corner. My room has one corner that's always in shadow because of where the lamp sits." The second I read that line, I felt my stomach drop. I couldn't bring myself to look at the corner. I slammed my laptop shut and sat in the dark, holding my breath, feeling my pulse hammering in my ears. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound in the house felt like it was coming closer. Jonah snoring down the hall made me jump. Evan opening the fridge at 2 a.m. had me clutching my phone like a weapon. The next day I explained everything to them. Jonah tried to laugh it off but got quiet when he saw how shaken I was. Evan suggested maybe my webcam had been hacked, which made a sick kind of sense. We taped over my laptop camera and ran every antivirus program we could, but nothing showed up, and still the comments kept coming. For weeks I stopped uploading. I figured if I gave this stalker nothing to respond to, maybe they'd get bored. But it didn't matter. They found other ways to get to me. One night I opened my email and found a message from a random address. It said, "That coffee you spilled this morning must have burned." Another one said, "Don't forget you left the back door unlocked." That last one made me nauseous because I had left the back door unlocked while carrying in groceries earlier that day. Nobody could have known that. Evan and Jonah got freaked out too. We ordered cheap security cameras off Amazon and set them up around the house. For weeks nothing happened. The cameras caught nothing but us going about our lives. Then one night, Evan shook me awake at 3 a.m. His face was pale and his voice was shaking. He pulled me into the living room and showed me the footage from the night before. At exactly 3:12 a.m., the motion sensor in the living room triggered. The grainy black and white video showed a figure standing perfectly still in the corner of the room. Not moving, not speaking, just standing there. It was impossible to make out details, but it was the unmistakable shape of a person. After a minute, they stepped backward, out of frame, as if they had never been there. None of us slept that night. The next morning, we called the police again and showed them the footage. The officer looked uncomfortable and promised to have a patrol car drive by occasionally, but it was obvious they didn't know what else to do. That afternoon, a new comment appeared on one of my older videos. It said, "Thanks for finally noticing me. We changed the locks. We bought better cameras. We kept every window locked and double-checked every door." But the comments never stopped. Sometimes they were harmless, like "cool video," but other times they were more direct. Last week, after I uploaded something, the comment read, "Don't bother checking the footage tonight. I turned the cameras off. I don't know who this is or how they're watching me, but they know things no stranger should ever know. They know what I eat, what I wear, what I do when I think I'm alone. I've stopped sleeping through the night because I swear I hear footsteps that don't belong to Evan or Jonah. I see shapes in the corners of rooms and catch my reflection, twitching in windows like something is just behind me. And tonight, less than an hour ago, a new comment appeared under my latest upload. It said, "You type slower when you're scared. I can see your hands shaking right now. I haven't looked behind me since." I've always been a night owl. I work odd hours, so staying up past midnight never bothered me. Most nights I'd be wide awake when everyone else in my building was asleep, and the silence would eat at me. That's why I started streaming in the first place. It gave me something to focus on, and even better, a handful of strangers to talk to so the apartment didn't feel so dead quiet. I wasn't big or anything, maybe 20 or 30 regulars who tuned in, mostly other insomniacs, college kids, or people working night shifts. I never expected to make it big. For me, it was just about not feeling alone. This happened about 6 months ago, and even though I've told myself 100 different rational explanations, none of them stick. I can still picture it perfectly when I close my eyes. It was a Thursday night right after midnight. I had just made coffee, set myself up at my desk, and hit start streaming. My setup wasn't professional. Cheap ring light balanced on a stack of books, a mid-range webcam that sometimes stuttered, and my desk shoved up against the living room wall. Behind me was a narrow hallway leading to my bedroom and a closet with one of those flimsy wooden doors that never closed all the way. When the stream went live, I noticed my viewer count tick up almost instantly. It jumped from 0 to 1 before I'd even said anything. That was unusual. Normally, it took a few minutes for people to trickle in. What was even stranger was that no name popped up. Normally, I'd see who was watching, even if they didn't type in chat. But this time there was no username, just the number, 1. I brushed it off and started playing. At first I wasn't thinking about it, but as the minutes dragged by, the number stayed locked at 1. No one else came in, and that one silent watcher never left. 30 minutes went by, and I realized I hadn't said a word because I kept waiting for the chat to move. It didn't. The silence started getting to me. My building was usually pretty quiet at night, but the kind of quiet that makes you notice every tiny sound. The hum of the fridge felt louder than normal. The computer fans whirred in a way that almost sounded like whispering. My chair creaked every time I shifted, and it made me hyper-aware of how still the rest of the room was. At one point, I paused the game audio because I thought I heard something through my headset, just faint under the static. For a moment, I could have sworn I heard breathing, slow and heavy, right near my mic. I sat perfectly still, staring at the audio levels on my screen, but nothing spiked. My stomach twisted, but I laughed it off. Told myself I'd probably just heard my own breath echoing back. Then I saw the closet door behind me move, just slightly, like it had been nudged. I turned around fast and stared at it. Nothing. I got up, walked over, and pushed it shut all the way, making sure it latched. By the time I sat back down, I'd convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe the draft from the window. Maybe my imagination. But the viewer count was still at 1. I leaned closer to my monitor to check my stream feed, and that's when I noticed something wrong. My camera showed me sitting at my desk, but my face didn't look right. At first, I thought it was just lag. My mouth seemed a little too open, my eyes too wide. It almost looked like I was mid-blink, frozen in a weird half-expression. I leaned in closer, and on the feed, me leaned in too. But half a beat too slow. The worst part? I wasn't smiling, but the version of me on screen was. Just faintly. I scrambled to clean my lens, thinking maybe it was a glitch. But when I looked back, the feed seemed normal again. My stomach wouldn't stop twisting. I felt this gnawing certainty that something was off, but I couldn't prove it. I ended the stream right there. I didn't even say goodbye. I just hit end broadcast, closed everything, and sat in silence. My room suddenly felt heavier, like the air itself had thickened. When I checked my dashboard afterward, it said the stream had 0 viewers the whole time. 0. Not 1. And there was no recording saved. I always had my streams autosave, but this time, nothing. It was like it never happened. The next day, I told one of my regulars about it on Discord. He joked at first, saying I probably just stayed up too late and imagined things. But when I explained the missing VOD, he went quiet. After a while, he typed, "Send me the clip." I told him there was nothing to send. That's when he admitted something that made my skin crawl. "Dude, I clicked your stream last night. It showed you were live, but it was just a black screen. No game, no audio, nothing. But it still showed 1 viewer, me. Except, I swear, I saw something move in the black, like a face. That shut me up for a long time. I didn't stream again for weeks. I couldn't. Every time I thought about going live, I remembered that warped version of me smiling, and the idea that someone, or something, was actually watching. When I finally convinced myself to stream again, I figured enough time had passed. Maybe it really had just been a glitch. The first night back was fine. A decent crowd showed up. People were chatting, joking, tossing game suggestions. For the first 2 hours, everything felt normal. Almost good. But then, just after midnight, my viewer count froze. I watched it lock onto the number 1. My stomach dropped. The chat stopped moving. My feed froze for a split second, and when it came back, my camera wasn't showing me anymore. Something else leaned into frame. The face was pale, pressed right up against the inside of the camera lens. Its mouth curled into that faint, impossible smile. And then my stream cut to black. I woke up slumped at my desk hours later. My head felt like it had been pounded with a hammer. When I checked my dashboard, it said I had never gone live. Again, no record, no VOD. But my Discord was full of messages, screenshots. People had seen it. Not me, not my room. Just that face filling the screen, and none of them were mine. I don't really know how to start this without sounding crazy, but I need to put it somewhere. If you're reading this and you run a YouTube channel, even a small one, please, I'm begging you, check your uploads, because what happened to me could happen to anyone. My name's Tyler. I run a channel that's never been huge, just over 25,000 subscribers. It's mostly commentary, a few urban exploration videos here and there. I'm not one of those people who can just sit and talk in front of the camera for hours. I put in work, late-night edits, carefully cut clips, scheduling uploads at the right time. It's not glamorous, but it's been my life for about 3 years. I live alone in a duplex just outside Portland. Not the best neighborhood, but not the worst either. A lot of old houses surrounded by huge trees. The kind of streets that are quiet during the day but feel suffocating at night. My place is small, but fine for one person. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, and a little office where I keep my computer and recording gear. Everything was normal until January. That's when things started showing up on my channel. Things I didn't film. It was a Monday morning. I'd stayed up late editing, so I was still half asleep when I grabbed my phone. I saw a notification. From YouTube Studio, your video is live. That didn't make sense. I hadn't scheduled anything. I opened the app and froze. There was a new video on my channel titled Unlisted Footage 1. It was 47 seconds long. The quality was awful, grainy, almost like an old camcorder. At first, I couldn't even tell what I was looking at. But after 15 seconds, it clicked. It was my bedroom. And there I was, asleep in bed. I sat there with my heart pounding, watching myself roll over under the blankets. The angle was from the corner of the room, like someone had crouched down near the door. I don't have any cameras in my bedroom. My setup is in the office across the hall. No GoPros, no hidden tripods. I deleted the video immediately, changed my password, enabled two-factor authentication. I told myself maybe it was some kind of glitch. Maybe an old clip had been corrupted and uploaded somehow. It was easier to believe that than the alternative. The next night I stayed up later than usual, half expecting something to happen, but nothing did. I finally crashed on the couch around 3 a.m. When I woke up, my phone was buzzing with notifications. Another video had gone live. Unlisted Footage 2. This one was worse. The angle wasn't from the corner anymore, it was closer. Maybe 5 feet from the bed. The shot lingered on my face. You could hear me breathing. At one point, the camera tilted, focusing on my nightstand where my phone was charging. I tore apart the bedroom after that, checked under the bed, the closet, even the vents. I pulled the smoke detector off the ceiling to see if it had a hidden lens. Nothing. I called my landlord, asked if anyone had been in the unit. He said no. That night I didn't sleep at all. I told my friend Jess about it. She's one of the few people who takes my channel seriously. At first she laughed and said, "You're just doing some viral marketing thing." But when I showed her Unlisted Footage 2, she went pale. "Ty, someone's in your house. You need to call the cops." So, I did. 2 officers showed up later that day. They walked through the duplex, checked the locks, peeked under the furniture. They didn't find anything. I showed them the video, but since it was uploaded from my account, they didn't believe me. One of them smirked and said, "Look, if this is some kind of publicity stunt, you should know you're wasting police resources." I could tell they weren't going to take me seriously. For a few nights, nothing happened. I started to think maybe changing the locks had worked. But on the 5th night, another video went up. Unlisted Footage 3. It was the same as before, but the camera was 2 feet from my face. I could see every detail. The faint stubble on my jaw. The way my mouth hung slightly open as I slept. Halfway through, the camera tilted down again. This time it focused on my phone. The screen glowed faintly as if someone had tried unlocking it. That broke me. I stopped sleeping in the bedroom. I started crashing at Jess's place or on my couch with all the lights on. But no matter where I slept, a new video went up each morning. Always in my bedroom. Always me in bed. By the 6th video, it wasn't just my face. You could hear whispers. Too faint to make out, but I swear I heard my name. I stopped eating much. My hands shook, all the time. I barely uploaded my own content because I was terrified of what would appear on the channel next. I called YouTube support over and over, but they just repeated the same advice. Change your password. Sign out of all devices. I had already done that. I bought my own cameras, real ones this time. Motion activated, streaming directly to my phone. I placed one in the bedroom, one in the hallway, one in the living room. But here's the thing. Those cameras never picked up anything. Not once. And yet, every morning, another video appeared. The 9th video was the one that finally made me leave. It started the same way. Me in bed, filmed from just a couple feet away. But 20 seconds in, the footage jolted violently. The view started moving fast, shaking like whoever was holding it was running. Then the camera dropped hard to the floor. The rest of the video was sideways, capturing the edge of my bed. I was there, asleep. Until suddenly I wasn't. A shadow moved across me. 2 hands grabbed my arms. I bolted awake, thrashing, shouting. Then the figure yanked me off the mattress. You could hear me scream as my legs kicked out of frame. The video ended with me being dragged into the dark hallway. But here's the thing. I don't remember that happening. I remember going to bed, tossing and turning, then waking up like any other morning. No bruises, no scratches, nothing to suggest I'd been pulled across the floor. And yet there it was, video proof on my channel uploaded from my account. I left the duplex the same day, packed what I could fit in my car and moved in with my brother 2 towns over. I deleted my channel, wiped every trace of my online presence. I haven't uploaded since. But sometimes when I'm trying to fall asleep in my brother's guest room, I swear I hear it. The faint click of a camera turning on. And I'll wake up to find my phone glowing on the nightstand like someone just tried unlocking it. I don't know who was filming me. I don't know how they bypassed locks, alarms, cameras, even my own memory. All I know is that someone was in my room night after night, getting closer each time. And I'm scared that one day, maybe soon, the next upload won't end with me waking up. I never thought much about YouTube's recommendations. I'd finish a video, something random would pop up, and half the time I'd click it without even thinking. Like most people, I figured the algorithm was just some fancy math trying to keep me hooked. But last year I realized it wasn't that simple. It started late one night in February. I was half asleep at my laptop, earbuds in, watching urban exploration videos. Out of nowhere, a thumbnail appeared in the recommended For You sidebar. It didn't have a title, just a block of gray static like an old TV screen when the signal cuts out. The channel name wasn't a real word either, just a random jumble of letters and numbers, something like 3XL7Q9. At first I ignored it, but I hovered my mouse over the thumbnail out of habit, expecting a normal preview. Instead, the little pop-up window filled with flickering static, and beneath it faint whispers. The sound was broken and layered like 2 voices overlapping out of sync. My chest tightened instantly. It didn't sound like background noise. It sounded like someone trying to talk to me directly through the static. I shook it off, closed the tab, and went to bed. But I couldn't shake that uneasy feeling, like I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to. The next night, it was back. Same thumbnail, higher on the list this time. I scrolled past quickly, but curiosity had already dug into me. It's like when someone tells you not to think about pink elephants, you can't stop. I mentioned it to my roommate Kyle later that night while we were eating takeout. Probably just some glitch, he said with his mouth full of rice. Or some weirdo uploading artsy garbage. Just don't click it. He laughed, but I noticed the way he leaned in when I described the whispers, like part of him wanted to hear it too. For almost a week I resisted. But every time I opened YouTube, different account, incognito, even on my phone, it showed up. Always that same block of static. Finally, one night, I caved. The video opened with pure white noise, nothing else. But then, just faintly, the whispers bled through again. At first it was too garbled to understand, like reversed speech. Then, for a fraction of a second, an image flickered. A dark room, something slouched, in the corner. Too quick to process, but enough to make my stomach drop. The whispers grew louder. I swear one of them said my name. My hands were sweating, heart racing. I closed the tab before it could go further. That night, I barely slept. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw the static rippling across the inside of my eyelids. I tossed and turned, and underneath the hum of my heater, I thought I heard that same whispering, like it was in the walls, just out of reach. Over the next few days, things got strange. I started having thoughts that didn't feel like mine. I'd be slicing vegetables in the kitchen and suddenly picture driving the knife into my own hand. Standing at the subway platform, I'd imagine shoving someone onto the tracks. These weren't urges, more like intrusive flashes, but they felt so strong, so vivid that I had to grip the railing just to steady myself. Kyle noticed. "Dude, you look like hell," he said one morning. His eyes scanned me like I was sick. "You even sleep?" I told him about the video finally. He didn't believe me until I tried to show him, but when I searched the channel, it was gone. No results, no history, nothing. "See? he said. Just some creepy pasta channel that got deleted, forget it. Except the next day, another video appeared. Same thumbnail, different channel ID. At that point, I knew something was wrong, and then I discovered I wasn't alone. On Reddit, threads started popping up about the static video. People described the exact same experience, the whispers, the flickering images, the violent thoughts. Some said after a week of watching, they started seeing figures in their rooms at night. Tall, shadowy outlines standing just past the edge of their vision. One guy posted that he woke up to bloody handprints smeared across his bedroom window. The post was deleted within hours, and then the response videos started showing up. The first one I saw was some guy in his 20s sitting at his desk. The video opened with him just staring into the camera. Static hissed faintly in the background. For almost 2 minutes, he didn't say a word, just stared. Then suddenly he started screaming. Not words, just raw, panicked screaming. He clawed, at his face tearing at his skin, until the feed cut to black. The channel vanished within the hour. After that, dozens of similar videos surfaced. Different people, different screams, always the static playing faintly underneath, always ending. In black, Kyle and I tried to avoid YouTube altogether, but one night I walked past his room and saw the light from his monitor. He was sitting at his desk, hunched forward, the glow of static on his face. "Kyle," I whispered. "Turn it off." He didn't answer, just kept staring. His lips were moving, whispering back to it. When I stepped into the room, he turned, slowly. His eyes were bloodshot, his skin pale and clammy. "Do you hear it too?" he whispered. His voice didn't sound like his. I panicked, slammed the laptop shut. He let out this inhuman sound, half scream, half growl, and lunged at me. We struggled, knocking over his lamp. I shoved him off and bolted out of the apartment, locking myself in my car. From outside, I could hear him screaming my name from the window, the sound warped and echoing. By morning, he was gone. His room was empty. Closet cleared, drawers emptied, laptop missing. It was like he'd packed up and disappeared overnight. His family said he never came home. The police took a missing persons report, but they looked at me like I was crazy when I tried explaining about the videos. When I checked my account again, the recommendations were back to normal. No static, no whispers, as if it had never been there. But sometimes late at night, when I let autoplay run too long, I swear I hear the faint crackle of static bleed into the next video, just for a second. Just enough to make my heart drop. I slam the laptop shut every time, and yet part of me can't stop wondering. Why me? Why Kyle? Why the others who posted their response videos? Maybe that's not the right question. Maybe the real question is, what's the algorithm trying to make us? So if you're reading this, if you ever see a video with nothing but static in the thumbnail, don't click it. Don't even hover over it. Because once you hear it, once it knows you're listening, it doesn't stop. I used to think the worst part of YouTube was the comments section. I had been vlogging for a few years, mostly lifestyle stuff, travel clips, little slices of daily life. Nothing that made me famous, but enough to have a steady little community that checked in whenever I uploaded. For the most part, people were supportive. But, as anyone who's ever posted online knows, there's always that handful of people who take things too far. At first, the hate was just the usual nonsense. Comments about my appearance, calling me fake, telling me to quit. I ignored it. Everyone says you're supposed to ignore it. But then the messages started to get more specific. They knew things. They shouldn't. What street I lived on, where I shopped, even the name of the barista at my local coffee place. At first I told myself it was just trolls getting lucky, but after a while it felt too close to home. One night after a live stream, where a few of them had been particularly aggressive, I decided I'd had enough. I disabled comments on all my videos. I figured if I cut them off from that outlet, they'd get bored and move on. The silence was instant. My next upload didn't have a single comment under it, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. That calm lasted until the next morning. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was a faint smear on my bathroom mirror. It looked like someone had dragged a dirty finger across the glass. At first I thought maybe I had done it half asleep, but when I leaned closer, my stomach dropped. It wasn't a smear, it was writing. Faint, but there. It said, "Listen to..." Hauta. My heart was pounding so hard I had to step back. My apartment door was locked, the windows shut. No signs of a break-in. I convinced myself it must have been condensation, a trick of the light, maybe even leftover soap streaks. I wiped it clean and told myself to let it go. The next day, there was no denying it. On the wall by my bed, written in what looked like black marker, were 3 words. "We see you." I froze. The handwriting was jagged, rushed, and it hadn't been there the night before. I didn't hear anyone come in. I didn't hear anything at all. I called my friend Danny to come over. She checked the locks, the windows, even the fire. Escape. Nothing. She tried to calm me down by saying it was probably just a prank, maybe I had sleepwalked. But the thing is, I don't sleepwalk. That night I barely slept, and when I did, I kept jolting awake, convinced someone was in the room with me. The next morning, the words weren't just on the wall anymore. They were on my arm. Thin, shallow, scratches spelled out, "Why ignore us?" My skin stung, but not deep enough to bleed much. I wanted to throw up. I called Danny again, and she swore we should go to the police. But what could I even tell them? That anonymous online trolls were somehow breaking into my apartment without leaving a trace, writing things on my walls and carving messages into my skin while I slept? I knew exactly how that would sound. The following nights got worse. Every morning I woke up with new scratches. At first they were words, short messages like answer or speak, but then they became sentences. "Don't hide. We're in here. You belong to us." The walls of my bathroom turned into a canvas of threats and demands, messages etched into plaster like fingernails dragged across stone. I tried filming myself while I slept, thinking maybe I'd catch whoever was doing this. But when I checked the footage, the screen glitched out around 3 a.m., static until sunrise. When it came back, I was lying still in bed, fresh carvings, already on my skin. I thought about moving, but something in me knew it wouldn't matter. This wasn't tied to the apartment. It was tied to me. Every time I looked at my reflection, the words on my body seemed to pulse, like they were alive. Danny started to distance herself too. She didn't want to come over anymore, said I was scaring her. I couldn't blame her. I was scaring myself. The real breaking point came when I woke up to find not just words carved into me, but shapes. Letters carved deeper, cutting across my ribs. They spelled out record. I felt sick. They wanted me to film. They wanted me to upload again. Against my better judgment, I did. I set up my camera in the bathroom, pointed it at the mirror, and the walls covered in hateful messages. My voice was shaking as I explained what had been happening. I showed the scratches on my arms, the ones now creeping down toward my stomach. I didn't even bother editing. I uploaded it raw. That night, I dreamed, if you can call it a dream, of dozens of voices whispering in unison, filling the room with static. They kept saying the same thing over and over. "You can't mute us, you can't mute us." I woke up with my chest burning. When I looked down, the words had been carved across me so deep that the sheets were soaked red. I don't remember setting up the camera after that. I only know because I watched the footage later. The video was shaky, me dragging myself into the bathroom, my hands leaving streaks of blood on the doorframe. I turned the camera slowly, deliberately, letting it capture every word that had been carved into the walls, into the mirror, into me. The bathroom looked like something out of a nightmare, every surface screaming the same message over and over. "You can't mute us." I remember staring into the lens, pale and trembling, my eyes hollow, before the camera tilted down on its own. It panned across the floor, across the crimson words written in what was left of me, and then the recording cut off. That was my last upload. I don't know if anyone watching believed it was real, or if they thought it was just some elaborate, Horror project, I guess that doesn't matter, because the truth is, I don't even know what's real anymore. All I know is the silence I wanted so badly is gone forever. Even now, even in the dark, when no one else is around, I hear them. 100 voices layered on top of each other, whispering in every corner of the room waiting for me to listen, and they're right. You can't mute them. I run a mid-sized YouTube channel that does urban legends, internet rabbit holes, and the occasional late-night exploration. My audience is mostly insomniacs and people who listen while they fold laundry. I'm not famous, but I pay my rent with it. The plan was simple, a collab with a friend named Ria, who runs a bigger channel. We'd been talking for months, joking on each other's streams, getting our calendars to line up. The idea was an overnight piece in an old office park outside Glendale. She'd take the personal experience angle. I'd handle the research and visuals. We locked the date. She texted me a thumbs up and a selfie with a cheap flashlight and that smirk she used when she knew an episode would do numbers. That was the last normal thing. On the filming day, I Ubered to her place so we could drive in one car. She lived in one of those renovated buildings where the laundry room is always locked and the hallway lights hum. She didn't reply to my "here." I sent another, and I swear to God, as I pocketed the phone, I felt the elevator stop and heard a single quick laugh down the hall. When I knocked on her door, it pushed open. I didn't want to step in, but when you say someone's name and you hear nothing, you take one step. The first thing my brain registered was cold air. The second was the smell, like copper and hot coins, but faint, like something you remember rather than actually smell. There was a drag of dark across the kitchen tile. Not a puddle, not a mess. A swipe, like someone had pressed a paint roller once and lifted it. I froze there with my hand still on the doorknob. A neighbor across the hall opened his door and then shut it again the second he saw inside. I called 911. The operator asked if I was safe. I said I didn't know. I told her about the drag mark and the open door, and that my friend wasn't answering. 2 patrol officers showed up, then a detective with hair too neat for a Saturday. They told me to wait downstairs in the lobby while they checked. I sat on a vinyl couch with a crack in it, and the building manager kept trying to look over my shoulder at my phone. After a while, the detective came down and asked if I was the one who texted there at 2:07 p.m. about the flashlight selfie. I said yes, and then I said I hadn't been inside more than a few feet. He said I should give them my shoes anyway. I was free to leave, but they'd probably want to talk again. I didn't film that night. I went home and watched old collab videos we'd done on stream, the ones where we teased each other in the thumbnail like a fake argument. People were already posting on Reddit about sirens at her building. That's how fast this stuff moves, when your job is being seen. Praying for you, Queen, and hope it's a stunt, and algorithm win, but at what cost? I stayed up until my eyes ached. At 4 a.m., my channel mod, a kid who goes by Kite, messaged me, asking if he should be deleting conspiracy comments. I told him yes, anything that doxed her or blamed some ex. I told him to lock the Discord. I fell asleep on the couch with the TV on mute. The next 3 days were police calls, statements, and brief texts that ran out of words quickly. Her mom called me once and thought I was the detective, and I had to say I wasn't, and I heard her breathe like she'd been punched, and that was worse than anything. The detective, Rios, left me a card and told me not to speculate publicly. It can make things complicated, he said. I promised not to. But my channel was dying in slow motion, and that felt extra wrong to care about, but I did. There is a part of your brain, when your job is the internet, that tracks your numbers even through a funeral. I decided to post a short solo video. Not the collab. Just a story I'd scripted about a disappeared neighborhood pool. It was something I could do with my face out of frame, just voiceover and B-roll, something to keep the lights on and, as I told myself, to keep our audience there in case someone recognized something from the day she vanished. I filmed at my desk. I always record 3 takes. The third was clean. I cut it together with static and a slow zoom on a chain link fence that had a shoe hanging from it. I exported. I titled it The Pool That Took Back Its Summer, and I scheduled it for noon. I've done that 1,000 times. When you schedule a video, you get this little line in YouTube Studio that says processing. I went to make coffee, and when I came back, the thumbnail had updated to one I did not make. It was my chain link fence, but it had a second face. In the lower left, reflected in the metal, it was Rhea. Hair tucked behind one ear, that same flashlight smirk. I assumed it was my own mind twisting a blur into something I wanted to see. I clicked to change the thumbnail back, but when I hit save, the new thumbnail saved. Again. Same fence, same smirk, like a joke where the punchline repeats. By noon, the video had 15,000 views. That's not normal for my channel. Not on a weekday. The comments were half prayers and half timestamps. 317, who is that in the glass door? At 5:41, you can hear her say, I'm behind you. I scrubbed through. At 3:17, I had a slow pan across a patio door that should have reflected my tripod and a beige couch. There was a figure in the reflection, out of proportion by just enough that your gut notices before your eyes. Her, but something off. The mouth was a little too wide, like the frame had been stretched. The eyes were a little too still. I checked the raw files in Premiere, frame by frame. She wasn't there. The export I uploaded did not have her. The live stream that YouTube served to the public did. I downloaded my own video from the platform. That one had her in it. Not pasted, not added like a filter, but baked into the compression, the way artifacting changes when the camera moves. When she leaned, the noise leaned with her. There's a kind of terror that doesn't spike your pulse, it hollows you. That's what I felt. I shut my laptop and sat in the quiet of my apartment and told myself a cause. Hack, stalker editor, some sick person trying to turn her disappearance into a viral game. I called Rios. He sounded tired. I told him what I had. He told me to email a link to the video and to not delete anything. Don't do anything else with the channel tonight, he said. Just don't stir it. At 2 a.m., my phone vibrated on the nightstand with a code for a new login to my Google account. It had the right "it's really you" vibe, and the location said somewhere downtown, but the time zone was right. I hadn't requested a code. I changed my password. I added a new backup email. I pulled the battery on my studio camera. I slept with the TV on again. The next morning, I had a notification from YouTube Studio. Your video, The Pool That Took Back Its Summer, is performing 200% better than usual. There were also 2 scheduled uploads I didn't queue. Both had the same title template. We went back to, and then a place. The first said, we went back to the Glendale offices. The second said, we went back to the rest stop. The thumbnails were me and Rhea in split screen, both smiling too hard, her head at a small angle like a price tag on a shirt. The published dates were today and tomorrow, both at 6 p.m. I asked Kite if he had access. He said no. He only managed Discord and comments. I revoked every third-party app in my account. I called a friend who does digital forensics for brands, and he said if someone got in, they wouldn't use it to post content like that. They'd run scams. They'd flip ad revenue. He told me to take a breath. He told me to save my footage, metadata, and not talk about it on Twitter. People turn grief into fiction at scale, he said. You don't want to feed them. 6 p.m. came with a kind of dread I only felt once before. When I was 10 and my mom didn't come home from a late shift, the video posted. It wasn't a re-edit of something old. It was new. I was in it. We were both in it. It opened with one of my goofy "What's up, guys" faces, and then cut to a drone shot of the empty parking lot where we were supposed to film the collab. The cut was my style, my fonts. The tracking on the lower third was mine. The voiceover was both of us. She laughed in that small way she laughs when she's actually amused, not performing. There was a moment where I held the door for her and said, "After you," which is something I always say on camera because it plays like a bit. For a long minute, I couldn't breathe. Then the words in my head aligned into a single line. This is footage from some other timeline where we did film it. I checked the durations. The first we went back was 9 minutes, 52 seconds. The next day's scheduled one was 10 even. I went to the comments. They came in fast enough to stutter. So glad you guys posted, and proof of life. And at 4:04, she looks right at the camera. I clicked 4:04. She did. She looked not into the lens, but into me, into the square you see of yourself when you film on a mirrorless and keep the screen flipped out. My own cheeks went cold. I opened the raw folders again. Nothing. No Glendale, no rest stop, no drone files, no lav mic tracks. Yet the video had ADR we only did when we were trying to cover up wind. It had a joke I hadn't written yet. Detective Rios called at 11 p.m. "We need your laptop," he said. I told him he could have it. He told me to bring it to the precinct first thing. I told him he could come get it now. "I'm not home," he said, and then he asked me to verify a code he'd sent. I got another text. He hadn't sent one. I didn't read the number out. "Good," he said, smart. He told me to power everything down and stop looking. "Whoever is doing this wants your attention and the audience's attention," he said. "Don't give them what they want." He didn't say whoever with much confidence. When you're told not to look, your mind presses on it like a sore tooth. I powered everything down. I brought my laptop to him in the morning. I went home to an apartment that felt like a stage after the lights go off, but the audience is still there. I tried reading. I tried doing laundry. I stood in the shower until the hot water ran out. At 5:58 p.m., my TV turned on by itself. I don't have one of those fancy smart systems. It's an old flat screen that needs a hard remote press. It switched to YouTube and opened my channel. The scheduled upload started early on my own TV. In the opening shot, the camera looked down a tiled hallway I didn't recognize, like the ones in a rest stop where the signs are in that cheap blue font. My phone buzzed. "Going live in 5. Tell them to join," said a text from Ria's number. An iMessage balloon. Blue. I had deleted her thread 2 days earlier because every time I saw her name, it ripped me open. This was a new thread. I typed, "Who is this?" But before I sent it, another message came through. This one was a picture of my apartment door. It looked like it had been taken from the hallway, 2 feet away, eye level. The peephole made a black coin in the center. 3 dots popped up, typing. Disappeared, popped up again. I put my ear to the door and heard something, maybe the hum of the hallway lights, maybe breathing. A neighbor's dog barked far away, muffled. I checked the deed bolt. I checked it again. My TV turned the volume up. The video cut to a shot of me and Ria, walking into frame and doing that fake surprised look at the camera that YouTubers do even when they know exactly where the camera is. We looked happy. People in the comments typed, "I knew it was a stunt," and "You got me," and little coffin emojis. I put the chain on the door and cracked it. The hallway was empty. The smell of hot dust came in from the vent. There was a faint iron taste in my mouth, like I'd been chewing a penny. I shut the door and stood there with my hand on it. Something thumped once above me like a dropped shoe. The video on my TV went quiet. Then a whisper, under everything. Maybe wind noise. Maybe someone way too close to the mic. My name, and then, open. I grabbed my keys. I don't know why. Maybe because it felt like leaving was a plan. I slipped my shoes on without socks. My phone vibrated with a notification. "Your live stream starts in 10 minutes. Live stream? I hadn't scheduled a live stream. The link had our collab tag and a title. Catching up, we're okay. My throat hurt. I texted Kite. "Are you seeing this?" He typed for a long time and then wrote, "Dude, your stream is already up." I told him it wasn't possible. And then my TV changed to my apartment. The camera angle was wrong. It was from inside the apartment looking at me from behind the couch. I was in the frame, shoulders hunched, hands on the door. The chat flowed over the image. "Bro, turn around, and this is fake, and is this RG, and she's behind you." I turned around. There was no one there. I'm not proud of the sound I made. The stream angle slid sideways like the camera had been placed on the arm of the couch, and then someone sat down too close to it. A hand dipped into frame. Long fingers with chipped polish, a color I recognized, but couldn't name. The hand waved in a stiff little twitching motion that would have been cute if it didn't feel like a puppet learning a new joint. I unplugged my router. The stream did not stutter. I took the battery out of my webcam even though it was USB powered and didn't have one. The stream kept going. In it, the front door opened. In real life, the front door stayed shut. In the video, the hallway light hummed. In real life, it did too. In the video, I took a step back. In real life, I did without meaning to, as if the floor in both versions slanted the same way. I ran to the kitchen and pulled the breaker for the living room. The apartment went dark. The TV stayed on. The air got colder. The chat was a river of laughing emojis, and I knew it. Someone sent a super chat, $50 with the message, "Welcome back, Rhea." It pinged my phone as a deposit. In the stream, she came around the couch. The camera adjusted exposure a notch on its own as if trying to find a face. She looked exactly like herself except for the math of her smile. It started too early in her cheeks and kept going too long after the rest of her stopped. She tilted, her head in that price tag angle. She leaned close to the camera and you could hear the tiny scratch of mic rub. "Hi," she said. It sounded like when you're underwater and someone talks above the surface. I went to the door. I undid the chain and the deadbolt and opened it to the width of my hand. The hallway was empty, but the smell of copper and hot coins spilled in, like it had been waiting. The stream showed her turning her face toward the door the way a cat turns its ears. I shut the door, closed my eyes, and counted. A beat. Another. The stream showed her walking to the door and laying her ear against it. My door pressed inward a fraction like someone very polite was leaning. "We have to finish," she said, but I didn't hear it in the hall. I heard it in the room above my head and in the small speakers of my phone and in the place behind, my teeth where you hear your own voice. The chat bubbled with hearts. I don't remember moving, but I was suddenly in the bathroom with the door shut, sitting on the edge of the tub. I watched the stream on my phone with the sound off. In it, I walked into the bathroom and shut the door. I looked right into the camera like I had known all along where it was. I leaned down until my face filled the frame and said soundlessly, "I'm sorry." Behind me in the stream, the mirror showed a second version of the bathroom where the overhead light flickered and the shower curtain moved even though the air was still. I turned my phone face down. The plastic case felt warm. Someone knocked. Not at the apartment door, at the bathroom door. 3 times, light and quick. Then a pause. Then the softest scrape like a fingernail on paint. I didn't say her name, because I was afraid of what would answer. I texted Rios. "It's happening right now." The little status under the message said, "Read." No reply. I counted breaths until the knocking stopped. When I finally opened the bathroom door, the apartment looked exactly the same as it always looks when I have to do dishes. The TV was off. The blinds were closed. The front door was locked. There were no footprints. Nothing was moved. My phone pinged with a new email from YouTube. "Your live stream Catching Up We're Okay is now available as a video. 704,000 views. Monetization on." At 7:12 in the archive, according to the timestamps in my Tinozem, the comments, I opened the door and let her in. She kissed my cheek. The chat went insane. After that, it was daily. New videos. Me and her in them. In places we had never gone. Doing bits we'd planned on FaceTime months ago and then scrapped. For time. We went back to the Glendale offices. Part 2. We went back to the house with 2 mailboxes. We went back to the track stop with the blue logo. Each one slotted into my upload schedule at 6 p.m., like I had prepped a month of content. People recognized locations and sent in pictures. "I saw you guys at the fountain," one wrote, attaching a blurry shot that showed a couple in the distance who could be anyone except for the way the woman's head tilted like a tag. Sponsors emailed my business account asking if we were open to mid-roll ad reads again. My CPM doubled. Someone started a thread titled, "So was it all PR?" The top comment said, "Not PR. Grief makes us do weird stuff." Let them cook. Another said, Bro, I heard her whisper my name through my speakers. Low-key comforting. Detective Rios returned my laptop. Nothing obvious, he said. No remote access, no malware. We have the subpoena in for logs, but that takes time. He looked like he hadn't slept since I saw him. Don't engage, he said. Let the system do what it does. I asked him what the system does in a case where the system is the problem. He didn't answer. I tried to delete one of the uploads. You can't really delete anything from the internet. I mean, functionally, yes, you can click delete forever, and the front end obeys. But the mirrors and the rip-ups and the downloaders don't care. Even so, I went to Studio, clicked the 3 dots, clicked delete. It spun the little wheel and then said something went wrong. I tried again. The same. I tried reporting my own video for impersonation. Thanks for your report, it said. We'll let you know. I closed the window. I opened it. I walked away and came back and opened it again. Fans began to DM me stories like the videos were a long-distance phone call. You saved me last night, one wrote, and then described waking up at 3:33 a.m. to their TV playing our rest stop piece, even though they hadn't left YouTube open. I heard her tell me it wasn't my fault, another said, and I didn't know which fault they meant. Kite told me people were making edits of her smile, adding that glitch warp laugh under slow zooms. He banned 100 accounts and more popped up. It's bigger than us, he messaged. I think it's just like when a song gets stuck in your head but with video. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. Every time a video went live, I sat on the floor and listened. Sometimes I heard nothing. Sometimes I heard footsteps in the unit above me and a tiny scrape behind the stove like something small had gotten lost and was trying to make a nest. Once I woke up to the low battery chime on my camera even though it was in a drawer, and when I opened the drawer the battery had melted a little, just enough to leave a fat tear at one corner. I tried calling her number again, straight to voicemail, except once at exactly 6 p.m. it rang and then it picked up and I heard a hallway light hum through the speaker like the first day. We need one more, she said. We never finished the collab. I asked, Where are you? And the call cut. A minute later, my channel posted a community tab screenshot of the two of us with the caption, Tomorrow. You're probably reading this because you came here from my channel. I won't name it, but you'll find it. If you search the titles I mentioned, you'll find those too. I know how this reads. You think it's a story with a twist, and the twist is that it's an ARG and the moral is, don't trust content. That would be smart. That would be safer for everyone. But I'm writing this because the algorithm wants forward motion, and I don't know how to stop it. Posting this here feels like tapping the brakes on a hill. This morning, my doorbell rang. Not the knock. The polite chime they installed last year when a tenant complained. The little camera showed an empty hallway. A second later, a package. Notification popped up from downstairs. The box in the lobby had my name and scrawled under it in her handwriting. Ours. Inside was a new microphone I'd been planning to buy for the collab. The exact one down to the windscreen color. And a note that I could swear smelled like her apartment did when she lit that cheap, warm vanilla candle from the pharmacy. The note said, 6 p.m., one take, don't cut. It's 5:41 now. The scheduled post that I didn't schedule has a thumbnail of us in my kitchen. The title is The Collab. The description is a single line, no more waiting. The live chat is already open and scrolling at the speed of rain. Kite is trying to slow it down. Someone sent a $100 super chat that says, for flowers. There's a little red dot next to live that isn't lit yet, but will light up on its own whether I touch anything or not. The hallway light outside my door is humming at a slightly different pitch than yesterday, like a tuning fork. I want to say that if this is a person, please stop. You win. But there is no address to send this to, so I'm saying it out loud instead. If this is a glitch, I have been inside enough broken websites to know that glitches aren't personal. If this is not those, then I have been inside enough broken people to know that sometimes something wants you to look at it and keep looking and to let it smile too wide. I won't pretend I don't miss her. That's the worst part. The videos, whatever they are, understand that missing is a door that swings both ways, and they keep showing me how it would have been if we'd filmed. The blue logo on the rest? Stop. The dust in the old offices. The bit where I say after you because I always say it. And the way she looks into the flip-out screen like it's a person. It's 5:59. The red dot just lit. My TV turned on again, and the stream switched to my apartment, and the comments are all hearts and coffins, and I told you they were fine. The camera angle is from the corner of the ceiling where there is no camera. The doorbell just rang once, polite. I can feel the cold of the hallway gathering against the door like a palm. The new mic is on the counter where I left it, still in its plastic wrap. The note is under it. My phone buzzed with the same old text sound as the day of the flashlight. Selfie. It says, after you. I know half of you think I should run and half of you think I should let it in, and the worst half of me wants the numbers. If you don't hear from me after this, don't turn on my channel. Or do. I don't know anymore which choice helps. The one thing I'm sure of is that the videos will keep going. They have their own schedule now. They'll upload daily and we'll be in them, and you'll comment and send hearts and timestamp the whispers and argue about what's real. And maybe you'll hear your name one night through the speaker like, it's underwater. Maybe you'll feel the temperature drop and smell hot coins for a second. It wants you to keep watching. It wants all of us looking at the same door, waiting for it to open. The doorbell just rang again. It's time. I'm going to put the mic on the counter where the thumbnail says it'll be. I'm going to open the door a little and I'm going to see nothing and something. And then we're going to finish the collab. At least that's how the schedule reads. If you watch, pay attention at 4:04. That's where she looks right at you. That's where you'll see the smile move a little too fast, like the frame rate skipped, like the video already knew you'd be there. And if you hear someone whisper after you, don't say it back. Or do. It won't matter. The upload progress bar just jumped to 100% without starting, and the little ding played, and whether or not I move, the video goes live. I can feel the shape of a person on the other side of the door, polite and patient and perfect for the camera, and I realize without meaning to that my mouth has already started to smile. We found the old camera by accident in one of those plastic bins that lives under the stairs and smells like dust and rubber. It was a black Canon we used when our little channel was still a thing, back when we thought weekly vlogs could be our side hustle if we just stuck to it. My wife, Emily, had labeled the bin winter stuff in a fading silver Sharpie, which is why it took 3 extra trips up and down the basement steps before we realized our hats and gloves had migrated, and we were lugging a graveyard of cables and batteries instead. Our son had outgrown the sled. Our neighbors had outgrown talking to us about the channel, and we had outgrown the idea that 1,000 views meant anything. But the camera was there, heavier than I remembered, with an SD card taped to the side, and a note in my handwriting that said 2017, Cactus Day Thrift Hike. It was Saturday night. Rain kept threatening the windows without ever committing. Noah, my younger brother who'd been sleeping on our couch for the last 2 weeks while he figured out his own life, was at the coffee table assembling a cheap shelf he'd bought on Facebook Marketplace and cursing under his breath each time a dowel rolled away. The TV was already on because we'd watched a game earlier. The dog was snoring with one eye open, and the kitchen smelled like the oven had done its best with a frozen lasagna and still lost. It felt like the right kind of night to let an old version of ourselves play in the background. "Put it on," Emily said, half buried in a cheap throw blanket, hair damp from a late shower. "Let's see the Cactus Day." We didn't really remember what Cactus Day was, which made it better. It would be like opening a time capsule and laughing at how tired our faces looked, then seeing behind it how tired they still looked. My mom had called earlier to say she missed watching our videos and that we should start again because the nice lady from church always asked for new ones, and I had made the right noises and promised nothing. This was a compromise. We could at least replay an old one. Noah used the HDMI cable that lives in a messy coil behind the TV and plugged the camera in. The Canon woke up with a cheerful chirp that sounded weirdly loud in our living room, like a bird that had flown in by mistake. The date flashed, Mar 11, 2017, and then the blue YouTube logo mirrored by the TV became our old living room from our old apartment, shabbier and brighter and full of echoes because we hadn't figured out rugs back then. I felt that quick punch in the chest of seeing a younger self move like you remember yourself moving. then realizing your shoulders don't sit the same way anymore. On screen, Emily and I were packing a backpack with cameras and granola bars and sunscreen like we were leaving civilization. Our old neighbor, Mrs. Klein, who used to feed stray cats even though she swore she hated animals, waved from the hall, with her hands full of mail meant for us. I glanced at our front door now and saw her name still hung on the mailbox across the street, and the memory made the living room feel both safer and lonelier. The first few minutes were harmless and sweet. There was some shaky footage of thrift store shelves, where I made a joke about ceramic roosters multiplying when no one was looking, and a quick cut to a cactus nursery we'd thought would be cool because the internet said so. Then another cut to a trailhead. We said we were going to do 3 miles super easy, and then we filmed ourselves out of breath after half a mile. Our editing back then was choppy and full of jump cuts because I was trying to be punchy. We mocked ourselves for the clothes we wore, for the way I would end sentences like I was proud of them. Our son Owen appeared briefly in the back seat, 5 years younger, chubby cheeks, drooling on a plush dinosaur and kicking his heels. He's at my sister's tonight, I thought, and felt guilty for not missing him harder until that guilt passed like a cloud and the laziness of the rain returned. At the 6-minute mark, there was a tiny flicker. It wasn't dramatic. If Emily hadn't said, "Did you see that?" I might have assumed I blinked. The image paused for less than a second and then jumped forward like a skipped heartbeat. The audio made a soft ch-key and synced itself again. Emily sat up a little, her blanket dropping to her lap. "Here we go," Noah said, pretending to drum a rim shot on the edge of the coffee table. "Playback error night." The joke wasn't funny enough to warrant saying something about it, but it stuck to the top of my mind anyway, the way a thread catches on your fingernail and you keep feeling it as you move. The video kept going. The hike dissolved into a kitchen scene where we made nachos and called it dinner. The cheese a violent orange I don't remember buying. Then there was a clip of me showing the camera a thrifted lamp and saying it was the exact vibe, and Emily laughing and telling me not to use the word vibe again. Watching it felt like riding in a car you never drove but had ridden in enough times to predict when the driver was going to tap the brakes. I don't know when the wrongness changed from a flicker to a pattern. The second glitch was longer. The screen warbled sideways, like a ripple in a curtain, and a thin strip of black tore across the bottom for a breath of time. I glanced at Noah, who made a sympathetic face and raised his shoulders as if to say, "Old tech, dude." The third glitch came with a small pop from the TV speakers like someone snapping their fingers inside the walls. "Maybe the SD card is corrupted," Emily said, practical, and reached for the remote like she could pause and will it back into shape. She never got the chance. The Canon's tiny screen flashed a message first, a gray rectangle that looked like a nagging pop-up on a PC from 2003. Playback error. File index unstable. Resume. Noah snorted. "Your vibe is unstable," he said, and I told him to help me find a different SD card tomorrow because this was apparently the only copy of our fake life. Emily said, "Just hit yes." It was fine. I clicked the joystick. Screen went bright for a second, then black, then bright again like it was trying on light. The footage that came up wasn't what I expected. It wasn't us in 2017 anymore. There was our living room, right now. Not the exact angle our eyes had on it, but some version of it, like the Canon had been set up on a tripod by someone who liked symmetry more than I do. It was clean and centered. The couch was a gray bar. The coffee table was a lighter gray rectangle. The TV, this TV, was a black doorway on the wall, showing a black doorway on the wall, showing a black doorway on the wall, receding like a magician's trick. For a second, I thought Noah had somehow switched the input to the security camera we keep in Owen's room, but we don't have cameras in the living room, and besides, the angle was wrong. The image had a timestamp in the top left corner that read 0003, as if it had only been counting for 3 seconds. The sound coming from the speakers was a low floor hum, the kind a fridge makes but slower, more deliberate. "You're messing with me," Emily said without conviction, eyes jumping from the TV to the camera to the door, trying to find the joke and not finding it. "This is live," Noah said, surprising me with the word. He wasn't asking. He was stating it the way you identify a smell you know. This is gas. This is cinnamon. This is smoke. I waved my hand like an idiot. On the screen, nothing moved. Emily did the same. On the screen, nothing moved. Our couch in the image contained us. The blanket bunched at Emily's thigh, Noah hunched forward gripping a stubby screwdriver, me with my weight more on the right because my back always hurts in the same spot. We were there, like you see yourself, in an unflattering mirror, but we were not moving on screen at all. Our faces had a smear of motion to them, like a photo taken with the slightest tremor. Freeze frame, I said, brain trying to make shapes that fit. Then the timestamp ticked to 00004. On screen us did not blink. The lamp next to the couch glowed with the same small halo. Its shade tilted a little because Owen had bumped it this morning with a soccer ball. The halo didn't quiver. "This is stupid," Noah said, too loud, and pushed himself up as if he was going to prove whatever this was with muscle. That was when the figure appeared at the edge of the hallway. It didn't enter like a person exactly. It entered like a change, in a test pattern. The contrast at the mouth of the hallway had been uniform shadow, and now it had more shadow inside it. A shape within the shape, and it took my brain a second to commit, to decide that the outline was the idea of a person, tall, shoulders narrow, head tilted slightly as if listening. I felt my body go cold in waves. The hallway to our bedrooms is a dumb design choice from when people favored long sight lines. It opens into the living room like a funnel, and every noise at night sounds like it's coming directly at your spine. I didn't turn to look. Maybe that makes me a coward. Maybe it makes me a parent who learned to sit still when the baby was asleep. Either way, my eyes were glued to the TV where we were three figures on a couch, perfectly easy prey in a painting, while another figure watched us from a distance. The timestamp slid to 0009. The figure took a step. There are 100 ways to walk wrong, and almost all of them are obvious. This was almost right. The stride was human-sized and the motion smooth, but the timing was just off, like watching someone on a swing whose forward and back don't add up. The shoulders rolled too little. The head didn't bob. The distance between the shadow and the coffee table shortened, and nothing else in the picture changed. I heard myself ask if the front door was locked. Emily's answer didn't feel like sound, it felt like a warm line between us. Yes, I checked it when you let the dog out. I wanted to stand. I wanted to do something as primitive as unplugging the TV, as if the screen were a window and closing it would wall us off from whatever version of our lives this was. I didn't stand. None of us did. On the screen we sat without moving, and in the room we leaned closer to our stillness, gnawing at the idea that if we just watched, we were safe from what watching showed us. I'm aware of how dumb that looks written out. If you weren't there, it's easy to decide you would have made a different choice. The figure took another step. The timestamp said "13". I could hear the fridge hum and the slow slap of water through the copper pipes, because the house decided to make every mechanical click matter. The dog stood and didn't bark. He walked to the edge of the rug nearest the hallway and lay down with his nose pressed to the fringe, pretending nothing new was happening. He is a coward, so maybe we learned it from him. The angle on the TV was a little higher than eye level, which meant the figure grew smaller as it moved toward us, our couch, our stupid bodies. That strange scaling made the movements feel like they were happening down a long corridor, even though it was only 12 steps from the end of the hallway to our coffee table. By step 3, I could see the outline better. I looked for clothes, and found none. Not because the figure was naked, but because there was no texture, no fabric catching light. It was like the kind of black you only get on a TV when it's showing you a color named after outer space. The face, if there was a face, was a patch of slightly less black in that, the suggestion of an oval. Emily whispered my name, then Noah's, as if making a chain of us would make us heavier, harder to drag. On the screen our mouths were closed. The timestamp said 40:21. The figure reached the coffee table. It didn't step around it. It glided along the edge like a needle, following a seam, hands, or where hands would be, close to its sides. Now I could see that the tilt of its head wasn't curiosity, but something like misalignment. Like its world was pitched a few degrees and it was correcting as it moved. There is a sound in our house that happens only when someone is standing at the hallway threshold and shifts their weight. The wood below the runner rug gives a small complaint, a low tick. We heard it. That tick came from behind us, not from the TV, and landed at the base of my skull like a point on a map. I felt my throat constrict like the house was suddenly at high altitude. We had not turned around. None of us had turned around. I can't explain why in a way that will satisfy you. Fear is mostly math. It divides your future into what you can afford to do and what you can't afford to know, and then it chooses for you. The timestamp said Oro 29. On the screen, the figure was at the end of the coffee table nearest me. In real life, I could feel the air cool by a fraction on my right side, like standing near an open freezer. My mind made quick, panicked bargains. If you can get to the kitchen light, if you can get the dog to bark, if you can call 911 and set the phone down on speaker, if you can say my son's name, if you can make a joke, if you can find any thread of ordinary and pull it like that silver Sharpie label, I said, "This is a prank," and hated how the word cracked. Noah said nothing. He had his screwdriver held in a way that was embarrassing and sincere, as if it could change anything. The timestamp said, Doru 036. The figure was behind our couch, now centered between Emily and me, towering in that way that doesn't require height so much as purpose. The top of its head was above the line of the couch back. I could see the edge of it soften as if heat rose off it backward. On the screen, our frozen faces stared forward, as if hearing a story and waiting for the punchline. The figure leaned. I didn't breathe. The speakers made a sound like cloth being smoothed, or maybe like a breath pulled all the way through a throat that had learned to be quiet. My brain split in two, and half of it stood up inside the other and said, "Turn. This is the moment everything in you exists for. Turn." The other half held my shoulders in place like I was a pinned moth. The timestamp said, 00:41, and then the TV shut off. Not a fade to black. It was as if someone yanked the plug from the wall with the humorless authority of a hospital nurse. The room was suddenly just our room again. The couch, the lamp, the hum, the dog pretending to sleep. There's a weight to a silence that isn't empty but full of one missing thing, and that weight settled on us, pressed our tongues to our teeth, our palms to our knees. Noah said, "Nope," which meant something like I refused to own this. Emily reached for me and gripped hard enough to hurt. The hallway behind us was still there because it had nowhere else to be. I stood up. It felt like stepping off a curb you forgot was there. The TV remained black. In the fake mirror of its surface, I could see a dim, stretched version of us, as if we had already decided to become ghosts. I picked up the remote because that's what you do when your brain demands a prop. I pressed power. Nothing. I pressed again. The little red light at the bottom of the frame blinked in disapproval. "Breaker," Noah said, already moving because he needed to move. Emily said very calmly, "Don't go down there yet." We didn't. We were all listening for the thing that would turn this into a story you tell the next day with a valley in the middle. I went to flip the breaker. The TV came right back on. It was a glitch. We laughed. We turned every light in. The house on. We went to bed and watched a dumb show until we fell asleep. We didn't get that thing. Instead, we got the front door sound. The gentle rattle the deadbolt makes when someone outside touches it and decides whether to knock. No knock. Just the rattle. A polite test. Emily reached for her phone without looking away from the TVs. Black, and I heard grasshoppers in my head even though it was March and too wet for any. She called 911 and the call connected, and the operator kept asking her to repeat our address like there was static. Like Emily was speaking through a pillow. "Someone may be in our house," Emily said, and the sentence came out with little hooks in it that caught on the air and hung there. "Or behind us," Noah added, unhelpful and true, and the operator asked again for our address, and I gave it too clearly, in that robotic emergency cadence you learn from shows and never think you'll use. The operator said officers were on their way, and I believed her and didn't. We are not in a town where officers arrive quickly for anything short of fireworks. The dog whined. I hated the dog then for being alive and not saving us. We waited. The TV stayed off like it was doing us a favor. My brain built a laminated checklist of what would happen next. The power would blip, the room would step sideways, the hallway would discharge its shadow, the TV would turn on alone and show us. Again, something would loop, because that's what this had started to feel like. A loop that had caught part of our night and decided to keep it. The hallway felt heavier than it had ever felt, as if air could collect and conspire. The fridge hummed. The floor ticked once beneath the runner. I turned too fast, like ripping tape off skin, and prepared for the punch that would break the surface of the world. Nothing. The hallway was an empty throat of carpet and white paint. Our bedroom door stood open. Dark. The bathroom nightlight threw its small moon against the baseboard. The smell was nothing. The particular lack of smell you only notice when you were braced for something specific. Wet soil, cheap cologne, the cold metallic tang of winter air. Nothing. I took 2 steps forward. Each step made a sound that meant nothing bad had happened there before. Behind me, the TV clicked softly, and I felt the noise in my bones. I didn't turn back right away. I reached the first door and flicked its switch, and the room opened itself to me, politely, showing a bed that needed making and a lamp with a crooked shade. I turned so slowly that if the scene had been a picture, you could have watched me pivot like a sundial. The TV screen was on. There was no startup logo. There was no menu. It was our living room again from that impossible angle, except this time the couch was empty. The timestamp said Woro Daro Daro 2. The hum was back, softer now, like it had learned our names. The camera's point of view panned on, its own. It moved in a patient arc toward the hallway. It paused as if enjoying the symmetry of the doorway. Then it inched forward, like a chess piece moved by a bored child only allowed 1 square at a time. We were watching ourselves, watching the space we were standing in. Emily said my name, then Owen's, because saying our son's name in the middle of naming me is how she measures the height of the panic in herself. Noah whispered no, in a way that was less about refusing reality and more about asking it to reconsider. I stood to the side so I could see both the TV and the hallway together, like you do at a magic show when you think you'll catch the trick. The new live feed, I will call it that because I don't know what else to call it, took us into the hallway at that floaty height again. It didn't wobble. The timestamp kept ticking. 9, 10, 11. It reached the bathroom nightlight, and the small moon on the baseboard glowed in the exact same place as the real one did, but brighter, like it had been manually tuned. The feed didn't turn into any of the rooms. It kept going until the screen was full of our office door at the end of the hall, the one with a stubborn latch and a strip of light at the bottom. Inside that office is where my old PC lives, the one I used to edit those vlogs. I could hear the PC right then on the wrong side of the door. Not the fans, which are tired sounding, but the tick of a USB drive being recognized and unrecognized in a loop. The feed stopped. The timestamp said 00:19. The angle tilted down a degree, like a head bowing. I don't think I have to say that nothing in our house at that height can tilt like that. The floor ticked once. Then, a thunk from the office door, small as a knuckle wrapping in a dream. The strip of light under the door brightened as if someone inside had just woken the monitor. Emily said, "Please don't." To the door. To me. To the TV. To whatever part of the night takes requests. Noah said, "Let's go outside," which was sensible and impossible because every step I took toward the front door felt like a step off the map, and the TV, which should be a dumb rectangle, had decided to be a compass. We waited and did. The one thing no one in any story ever does, which is nothing. Because there is a moment in certain kinds of fear where every motion feels like a declaration of war. The feed leaned closer to the office door. The timestamp said 00:26. There was a faint new sound riding underneath the hum. I didn't place it until I heard its counterpart inside the real office. The Canon's old SD card being read and read again. The light next to the slot trying to blink through wood. Another little thunk. The door opened a crack on the screen. It didn't open in real life. Not then. The strip of light under the door widened in the feed and stayed the same in the hallway. It felt as if someone had copy-pasted our house and begun to edit the clone. Inside the feed's version of the office, the desk lamp was on. The chair was pulled back an inch. The PC tower had a reflection in the glass side panel, and in that reflection was the suggestion of someone standing too close, too straight. The timestamp said 0:033. The door in the feed opened wider, and the view slid inside with the same careful patience. It focused across the desk on the PC monitor, and I saw a File Explorer window with a folder highlighted, and the folder was named 2017, Cactus Day. The cursor moved without a hand to move it. It double-clicked. Thumbnails populated with sick neatness. One thumbnail was our living room from minutes ago. Another thumbnail was our living room from now, the couch empty, the camera moving. Another was our living room from later, and the timestamp below that one said a time that had not arrived. In the real hallway, the office door made a noise like a sigh. The latch slipped. The door gave up an inch to no one's hand and then held there, as if what opened it didn't need doors to perform. "We need to go," Emily whispered, and the way she whispered "we" made it a word I could hold, like a handle. I grabbed the dog's collar. He came willingly, eyes rolling white, body low. Noah moved past me and put his hand to the door edge like he was shutting a fridge that never stops beeping. He pushed. It settled. It clicked. The TV went black. It didn't power down. It surrendered every pixel at once and became a mirror again. I saw my face and my family and the dog's ridiculous ears, and the hallway yawned behind us like a throat that had swallowed and wasn't done. We stood for a long 30 seconds and did nothing and heard nothing, and then we heard everything again, as if the house rotated back to align with the rest of the street. Sirens finally arrived in the distance, and the mirror of the TV showed, blue lights in miniature racing across our faces. 2 officers came in after too many minutes of checking the perimeter. They were practical and tired. They made the right questions with their mouths and their pens, and they looked at us when we said, "The TV," with the kind of patience you use on kids. We showed them the camera. It was warm. The SD card inside was warm, on my PC, which I booted under their watch because Emily said she didn't want to be in the office alone again. The SD card had a folder called 2017, Cactus Day. In it were a dozen clips that matched what we'd watched earlier, plus 3 new files with timestamps from tonight. One was 37 seconds of our living room from that impossible angle, all motionless with a black-handled cursor in the top left that didn't belong to any program I own. One was a minute and 7 seconds of the hallway, approaching the office door, with that same sound under the hum that I now believe is what my fear sounds like. The third was a file called 00000 MP4 that was 1 minute and 33 seconds of black. If you listened carefully, and I did, because not listening would have been worse, you could hear a breath like a person trying to breathe so quietly they would not be heard, and the occasional scrape like fabric touching paint. The officers were unimpressed and then politely concerned and then bored. They suggested we throw out the camera and maybe update the TV because smart sometimes means glitchy. One of them told us about a time his cousin's baby monitor picked up a neighbor's security feed and they watched another living room for a week before anyone realized. We nodded. We didn't tell them about the way the timestamp in the corner counted when no one was counting it, or how on the black file the breath got closer by degrees like someone flipping panes of glass. After they left, we didn't watch anything. We turned on every light in the house and let them assert the shape of things. Noah slept in the chair with his stupid screwdriver in his lap. Emily and I lay in our bed without closing the door. The dog slept with his nose at the bedroom threshold like he'd learned a new job. When I closed my eyes, I saw the feed moving toward a future thumbnail, and I opened them again. Around 3 a.m., when houses all decide to settle and remind you they have bones, the TV in the living room turned itself on without sound. I know this because the blue-white wash of it passed over the hall like a tide and woke the dog, and then me. I didn't go out there. I lay still and listened as the fridge clicked and the hum leaned in again. I heard the quiet of the office door. I heard the floor tick once under the runner. I knew if I walked to the living room and stared at that screen, There would be a new angle of our couch, and maybe it would be empty, and maybe it would be full of us later, and maybe there would be an image of me sitting at this desk, right now typing this out to strangers for the comfort of being known. I am typing this in the office at the old PC, because sleep and silence do the same thing to me. They make it too easy to hear what I don't want to hear. The camera is on the desk with the SD card out. The TV in the other room is off, finally, or pretending to be. The hallway is a quiet rectangle with a small moon on the baseboard, and the dog is at my feet with one eye open. There's a folder on my desktop called 2017, Cactus Day, and when I click into it, there are now 4 more files, all created in the last 20 minutes, all with names that look like times. I don't remember opening the drive, I don't remember copying anything. One of the new files is a thumbnail of this office, this desk, this keyboard, and the strip of light under the door is brighter in the thumbnail than it is under the real door. I haven't clicked it. The title at the top of this window says Untitled because I haven't saved yet. I don't want to. The house is breathing evenly again. If I look up, I can see my reflection in the blank monitor beside the one I'm using. A smudge of me in black glass. Eyebrows raised, like I expected to recognize myself and didn't. If I reach for the mouse, I can feel it resisting like it's caught in something sticky and fine. The TV in the other room clicks quietly, the way it does when it's about to accept a signal. The office door makes a sound like a gentle hand apologizing as it tests a latch. Under everything is the softest noise, like someone smoothing cloth that isn't there. If I open the newest file, maybe it will prove that none of this is happening. If I don't, then it's just a thumbnail of a future that hasn't arrived yet. The timestamp in the corner of my monitor, the real one, says 3:42. The timestamp in the corner of the thumbnail says 3:45. I will not look up. I will not turn around. And if the screen goes black in the next 3 minutes, if the feed cuts where it always cuts and leaves the rest up to us, then there will be a version of this that belongs to you now too. And that version will be the only one that feels safe. I'm going to hit post. If the light under the door brightens before my finger reaches the key, then maybe none of us ever turned at all. I'm posting this from a throwaway because some people in my life don't even know I watch this stuff, and because the playlist is still changing. If a mod needs proof, I can send DMs and timestamps, but I just want to get this out while I can. Still make sense of it. I live alone in a small 1-bedroom in a 5-story brick building above a laundromat and a cell phone repair shop. The place is nothing special. Thin walls, hallway that always smells like someone's dinner from 2 doors down, a humming radiator that clinks when it feels like it. I work late and keep odd hours, and my main social life is parasocial. Put on YouTube while I cook and clean. My favorite channel for a couple of years has been Evan Merritt's. If you're into internet rabbit holes, you've probably seen him. The guy does these gentle, curious deep dives. Not edgy, not shock stuff. More like, why do vending machines in airports have weird snack brands? Or, how a lost photo album found its family again. His calm voice is great background noise. I never felt weird about being a fan of his. This started on a Tuesday in late February. I was home at midnight eating cereal the way I do when I've already eaten dinner but can't sleep. I had Evan's latest video on my TV through my Chromecast. When it ended, autoplay rolled into an older one. Then the TV hung for a second, flashed black, and something else started playing that didn't have his usual intro or title card. At first I thought it was an ad. It was vertical video, shaky, taken from behind a half-closed curtain. The camera pushed through the fabric a little. You could see a slice of a living room across the street, a woman on a sofa under a warm lamp, her face lit by her phone. The camera didn't move much. There wasn't any sound except a tiny rustle now and then like clothing. The video lasted maybe 20 seconds and ended without a fade. Then the next one started automatically. Clip 2 was shot through a door. Chain like the person filming had the door cracked and was peeking at a man in the hallway, unlocking his apartment. The chain rattled slightly, metal on metal, and the man glanced up. The camera withdrew fast like the filmer didn't want to be seen, and the video cut. I backed out with the remote thinking I'd been thrown into some different channel, but the up next list had that little circular icon that was undeniably Evan's, his face smiling in a blue ring. Only the title was weird. It was just a long string of characters, like something had glitched and YouTube was showing the playlist. ID. I clicked open playlist. It said, unlisted 47 videos. The thumbnail grid was all dim rooms and half-closed doors and slices of lives through cracks. No titles, no descriptions. The creator was listed under Evan's channel name. The top right had the familiar dots. Add to queue, report, share. I didn't share it. My first thought was, this is some kind of art project he's doing secretly to comment on surveillance. Then I thought, maybe he was hacked. I grabbed my phone and checked his community tab. Nothing. Twitter, nothing. I went back to the TV and watched 3 more clips. One was through an air vent. One was a cell camera tilted sideways on a nightstand, capturing a man sleeping and a digital clock flipping minutes. Another was a handheld shot of a front yard through a car windshield with the wipers leaving arcs of rain. The wipers made a sound that felt almost too loud. Rubber, glass, rubber, glass. Each video was short. None of them looked staged. No jump scares, no soundtrack, no captions. The scariest part was how normal everyone looked. Real apartments, real mess. I typed a comment under his most recent public video and said, "Hey, your playlist tab is showing something weird." I didn't expect a response. He gets thousands of comments. Then I did something I knew was cringe. I DM'd him on Instagram from my main account. I said basically the same thing, adding a couple of screenshots and the playlist ID. Within 3 minutes he replied, "What playlist?" Then, "That's not me, can you screen record?" I sent him a minute of the first clip, muted so you couldn't hear my radiator. He wrote, "I swear to you I've never seen this. Thank you for telling me." It felt like when a teacher looks genuinely confused. You expect the adult to have a plan and they don't. While we were chatting, he posted a story. "If you see anything weird on my channel, it's not me, working to fix it." 5 minutes later, he put a short post in his community tab saying, the same. I went to bed at 3 a.m. in that buzzing alert way where you think you're being helpful to someone you'll never meet. By morning, the playlist had 60 videos. I watched a handful on my phone while the coffee dripped. The angles started to feel specific. A crack between boxes in a storage room, a reflection off a microwave door, a peephole reversed to look inside instead of out. One was filmed through, those cheap blinds we all have, the slats tilted so you only saw ankles moving in a kitchen and the flash of a white dog's tail. The camera held on the floor for a long, quiet beat. Even the silence had weight. YouTube had removed the playlist from public navigation by noon. If you went to Evan's page on a computer, the playlists tab showed only his usual uploads and interviews. But if you had the direct ID, the unlisted page still existed. I only know that because the share link I'd sent myself, in a text the night before, still worked. That made me feel complicit. Like if I could open it, wasn't I helping whoever was doing this? Around 4 p.m., the local news on in the laundromat downstairs was talking about a missing woman. The anchor was the same excited, calm voice they use for snowstorms and ribbon cuttings. They showed a photo of the woman, cropped tight from a picture that seemed like it was from a party. My stomach went cold because I recognized her. Not personally. From the first clip on the playlist. Same haircut, same terrible throw blanket behind her on the couch, a mustard yellow thing you don't see twice on accident. It can't be, I thought. It's a coincidence. The news showed B-roll of the street where she lived, then cut to the police spokesperson. I let it wash over me until the anchor segued to another story, and my brain started replaying literally everything I'd seen in the last 12 hours. I went back to the playlist and scrubbed carefully through the 20-second slice of her life. The only new piece of information I could wring out of it was a reflection on the TV screen in her living room. Another building, something like the top of a church or a school across the street. I screenshot, zoomed, and felt stupid. I DM'd Evan again and told him about the news report. He didn't answer right away. At 6 he went live, thousands piled in. The chat zipped like a waterfall. He looked rattled, sitting in his usual office with the potted plant that has its own little fan. He said the playlist wasn't his. He said he'd been on the phone with YouTube support, and they couldn't see any recent logins to his account from other places. He said they were investigating the possibility that someone was spoofing his channel identity using API keys. I have no idea what that means. And cross-posting. He said to report anything unusual we saw. His voice wavered just once and then he locked it down. The chat kept repeating playlist, playlist. I typed that a missing person on my local news seemed to be in one of the clips. He didn't see my message. Then he said he was going to pull the stream down afterward because he didn't want to give the playlist oxygen. He thanked us for caring. His image froze for a second at a weird angle and the live ended. That night, new clips appeared every hour on the hour. I didn't mean to sit up tracking them. I just kept refreshing and there they were. The numbers in the URL ticked up like a heartbeat. The images were familiar in a way I couldn't place. At first, tile patterns, a runner carpet with a little tear, the way light hit a particular hallway wall at a diagonal. One clip was shot through a gap in window curtains that looked like my curtains. I told myself, lots of apartments have off-the-rack gray blackout panels with Velcro tiebacks. Then I watched one that showed the corner of a cheap dining table with a missing screw that made it wobble slightly when you set a bowl on it. I still have the cardboard coaster I shim under it. It was there in the video, the same brand of local brewery, same worn ring. There are certain kinds of dread you feel in your bones. Not the scream kind, the mechanical kind. My hands were cold in the way hands get cold when your body has decided to put blood somewhere else. I walked around my apartment with the lights on and my phone camera recording like that would reveal anything. I checked my windows. The latches were the same crooked they always were. I checked my bathroom and the back of my mirror and even inside the potted plant. I ran my fingers along the top of the doorframe like a movie cop. I told myself I was ridiculous. Then I thought about the clip filmed through a reversed peephole. I put my eye to mine and saw the hallway and the soft green hum of the emergency exit sign at the far end. When I pulled back, the brass ring around it left a ghostly circle on my skin. I unscrewed it with a quarter, which is a thing you can just do, and for a second there was a little wind on my face and the smells of dinners and laundry detergent and someone's incense. I called the landlord's number and the voicemail was the same message from last year about maintenance being overwhelmed. I texted my friend from work, Jules, and asked if I could sleep on their couch. Jules is blunt to the point of rudeness, which I appreciate when my head is buzzing. Jules sent, I can pick you up in 20. Bring toothbrush. We'll get breakfast. After. Simple. Warm in a language we both understand. Because I didn't quite believe myself, I wanted proof to show Jules I wasn't just spiraling. I sat on my bed with the lights off to make the apartment into a mirror. I balanced my phone against my water bottle to face the bedroom window. I pressed record, and then I opened the playlist on my laptop. I waited. The apartment ticked and settled. The radiator knocked once like someone tapping a pipe in the basement. My upstairs neighbor coughed. The playlist showed 30 seconds left to the hour. When the minute clicked over, a new clip appeared. The thumbnail was dark, with a vertical slash of lighter gray. I clicked. The camera was low, floor level. The angle was pointed at my window, at the edge of the curtain so that the slightest movement made a change in brightness as cars passed on the street outside. The radiator clinked in the clip exactly as it had in my room. The same spacing, the same little echo. The camera had that cheap phone sensor thing where blacks smear a little if you move. It didn't move. I sent Jules. Hurry, they sent. Downstairs. I grabbed a backpack without thinking about what was in it. I left my TV on and the bathroom light and set a chair under the doorknob like my dad taught me when I moved. Out even though the door opens inward and that trick barely works. I left my laptop open on the playlist page, like it would keep watching even if I couldn't. Jules hugged me in the hallway. I probably looked out of it because they didn't crack a joke. The hallway smelled like fabric softener and old wood. We went down the stairs because I didn't want to wait for the elevator and be inside glass. In the car, Jules kept the radio low. Start from the beginning, they said. I did. By the time we were on their block, they said, I think you Should just call the cops and make them come look even if they roll their eyes. We did. The officer who showed up was patient in that way. That means he chose to be, not that he had to be. He watched 2 of the clips, including the window one. He walked around Jules' living room to check what exactly? He took a report with a ballpoint that had a little galaxy on it. He asked whether anyone had a key to my apartment. I told him the landlord and maybe the super, Ms. Patel, and that was it. I stopped myself from saying, unless, because there was no unless that wasn't going to make me sound unwell. He said to call if anything changed. He didn't promise me that it would be okay. At 3 a.m, on Jules's couch with the quilt they keep for guests, I watched the playlist tick forward. The new clip that hour was still my place, the kitchen. The camera angle was slightly higher and off to the left of the microwave. The tiny light of my router blinked green like a patient heartbeat. Then, right near the end, a small thing happened that I can't prove wasn't my mind filling in gaps. The reflection in the microwave door showed movement behind the camera, something like a shoulder blotting a darker shape into the dark. The clip cut before the shape resolved. I didn't sleep. Around 10 the next morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number with a muted contact photo. This is date. Renteria, you filed a report overnight? We'd been bumped up from a patrol incident to a detective, which made me feel both seen and doomed. He asked to meet at my apartment at noon. Jules insisted on coming with me. By daylight, my place looked boring again. We stood in the doorway while I apologized for the mess, which was exactly the mess of an okay life. 2 coffee mugs, a plant with a crisp brown edge, shoes by the mat. Detective Renteria was late 30s with a suit that fit well and a habit of writing with his thumb on the spine of his notebook. He looked at my peephole, my latches, the window locks I still hadn't replaced. He didn't treat me like I was wasting his time. He also didn't pretend he could solve a thing in an hour. He asked for the playlist link and I gave it to him, then watched all the blood drain from his face in a slow, competent way that meant only this. He recognized something. Don't stay here, he said finally. If you can avoid it. Let's talk downstairs. In the lobby, he asked me to tell him again how I'd found the playlist, this time in a way that would make sense in a report. I told him the glitch, the ID, the DM to the YouTuber. He asked me not to say that name out loud. He said there were other jurisdictions looking at similar footage attached to different channels, that some of the people in those clips had been reported missing in the last month, and that none of those channels were aware of it either. I'm not saying the platform's lying to you, he said carefully. I'm saying you should not engage with the content any more than you already have. Engage with the content, like I could just not. That afternoon, the local news did a piece about a second missing person. It was the man from the hallway through the chain. I turned the TV volume down and watched his face silently while the anchor's captions crawled. The words "last seen" and "contact authorities" scrolled underneath him, while my microwave reflected a tiny version of me and the detective's business card and the plant that needed water. By the 3rd day, the playlist was almost entirely my apartment from different places I didn't know could be seen. The camera had to have been moved or more than one camera used because one clip would be from low on the window, another from the bookshelf, another from the gap where the closet door doesn't close all the way. In one, my own handwriting was visible on a sticky note on my fridge. It was the grocery list from Monday: milk, eggs, dish soap, call mom, and then crossed out because I had. Seeing my handwriting while not being the person holding the camera was like watching your reflection move before you do. Evan DM'd me again on the evening of the 3rd day. He said YouTube had escalated it internally. He said his lawyer had advised him not to comment further. Then he wrote something I keep rereading. I think whoever did this wants us to know. They can see. That's the point, right? Not to catch us, to make us watch. He asked if I was okay. I said, define okay, and he sent a little frowny face that felt both too casual and exactly right. At 2 a.m. that night, the power in my building hiccuped. Everything went soft and quiet, then came back. The playlist updated with a clip, shot from the hallway, my door centered like a theater set. The frame tightened on the peephole, and somehow I swear I felt the eye on the other side like static on my skin. A second later, another clip appeared. It was inside, across from my bedroom doorway, aimed at the dark plane of my black TV off switch. If you've ever looked at your TV when it's off, you know it's a mirror. In the reflection, you could see my bed covers wrinkled up empty because I was at Jules. But the reflection moved just slightly, a shape across the mattress, and then it didn't. I had to rewind 3 times to be sure it wasn't the compression. I turned my phone over face down on Jules's coffee table and listened to my own breathing. I told myself that if I didn't look, that would be an action I had taken, and actions matter. The detective called at 9. He'd gotten access to some of the files behind the playlist through a warrant I didn't ask too many questions about. He said the metadata was bad, like stripped and spoofed, but that in 2 of the clips there were faint background audio layers not from my apartment. Think fan noise, refrigerator hum, but wrong pitch for your model, he said. We're trying to match environments. He asked again if anyone had a key. He asked if I had enemies. I mentioned my ex because that's the thing you do. He wrote their name down and then let his pen hover as if deciding whether to say something. He said that if I noticed any changes to my place, an object moved, a window latch in a new position, I should tell him, even if it felt ridiculous. It won't be ridiculous, he said. Not this week. When you're hypervigilant, even kindness feels dangerous because it asks you to put something down. On the 4th day, Jules had to be at work early. They offered to let me stay. I said I needed to shower at my own place and grab clothes. We agreed on a buddy system via text. I'd ping when I got there, when I went inside, and so on. I walked the 4 blocks with my hood up even though it wasn't raining. On my floor, the hallway light flickered once like it does sometimes. The runner rug had a new wrinkle. My door looked exactly like my door, which is to say unremarkable and entirely itself. The way your own handwriting is ugly to you but comforting. I pushed in. The chair under the knob was exactly as I'd left, and the plant was still failing. The microwave still reflected a stretched funhouse version of my kitchen. The only thing that felt wrong was the smell. Not bad, just not mine. It smelled like someone else's laundry detergent. I told myself that smells are memories liars. I texted Jules in. I put my backpack on the counter and went to the bathroom. I took the mirror down because I'd gotten good at that quick. The 2 tabs on the back releasing with a shuck. I looked at the drywall for holes I couldn't name. Nothing. I put it back. I started the shower and stood under water turned to hot while my brain spun calliope music of its own making. Halfway through shampooing, I heard my front door click. I froze. The water drummed on my shoulders and I heard it again. Just a small sound, a piece of metal laughing at me in the next room, and then the softest scratch against the door frame, like someone running a fingernail along paint to see if it flakes. I turned the water off, but in that way where you keep your hands in the exact place they were, so that if the universe is looking through a pinhole, it sees continuity and not shock. I stepped out, grabbed a towel, and stood with the bathroom door cracked as thin as breath, holding my phone with the camera app open like a talisman. Nothing moved. The apartment made plumbing noises like a ship. The radiator knocked, once, twice, and then the tiny sound of it settling back into itself. In my head, the playlist refreshed itself because it was the top of the hour, but I didn't look. The towel dripped on the bath mat. My heart did that bird in a room thing. I told myself I would count to 10 and then I would open the door like a normal person who lived in a normal place. 1, 2. On 3, my phone buzzed in my palm. A notification. I looked down out of the reflex that's been trained into me by every app since they invented them. It was YouTube. A new video has been added to a playlist you follow. I don't remember deciding to move. I was suddenly in the doorway, then in the hall, then in my bedroom. My TV black screen reflected the tall, narrow wedge of the bedroom door. I picked up the remote and pressed power because a black mirror was worse than a bright one. The TV came onto the home screen and filled the room with a too cheerful blue. The reflection disappeared. My laptop on the desk blinked awake as if it knew it was needed. The playlist page had refreshed itself. The new thumbnail was my bedroom from waist height, angled at the bed. I clicked, and while it loaded, I became aware of two facts at the same time. And the way they braided made me feel sick. The video timestamp said it had been recorded 38 seconds ago, and in the window reflection I could see the end of my shower towel thrown over the chair, which I'd done without thinking right before the door click. The camera was in the room with me 38 seconds ago. The clip ended when something in the foreground shifted, just the smallest fraction, like the camera tilting down because it had been set on something and that something had settled. I left. I grabbed nothing. I didn't lock the door, which felt like a mistake and also a kindness to whoever had installed a life around me that I couldn't see. Go ahead. Reset it. I don't want to know how. I spent the next nights at Jules and then at a hotel by the highway because I didn't want to be a burden, and also because if the playlist wanted to punish me, I wanted it to have to commute. The hotel was clean, in a way that felt like dissolvable paper. The lampshades had little scars. The microwave was bolted to the counter, which was somehow comfort and threat. I told myself the clips would stop because there was no new material to feed the thing. I told myself it would wander to someone else like a cold passing through an office. It didn't stop. The playlist added a clip from the hallway of the hotel, angled low into the gap under my door, capturing a slice of carpet and my shoes. The next was from the parking lot, a watchful stare toward my rental. The next was taken through the tiny triangle in the curtains where the two panels never fully meet. A girl in the next building over did a TikTok dance in her room, and I watched a bootleg of her through a bootleg of me, and then stopped because none of us deserved that. Evan posted one last message before going silent. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. The comments under his last public video had turned into a mud puddle of fear and blame and clout chasing and genuine care. Someone said it was ARG marketing. Someone said it was a federal sting. Someone said it was a demon. Someone posted timestamps from a clip where if you brightened and tightened and believed, you could see the curve of a jaw reflected in a window that might be anyone's. On the 7th day, I went back to my apartment with Detective Renteria and 2 uniforms. It felt ceremonial, like walking into a church after something terrible has happened in it, and everyone wants to pretend the ceremony can absorb it. The front door had been relocked, which meant whoever had the key, if there was a key, had used it. We went room by room. The detective photographed the microwave, my TV, the back of the peephole, the latch, the window track. I had this stupid urge to apologize for the plant again. He told me not to touch anything. I had already touched everything. While he was bagging a small piece of tape that had been folded into itself from the top of the closet doorframe, my phone buzzed. YouTube. A new video has been added to a playlist you follow. It was a shot of my living room from high on the bookshelf. In the frame, tiny and obedient, was Detective Renteria standing where he actually stood, writing. There was a delay of maybe 30 seconds. The clip paused on his hand mid-scribble, then ended. He looked up from his real notepad and then down at the one in the clip like he was trying to remember which world he was in. He said a word under his breath that I don't think he was supposed to say in front of civilians. We all looked up at the bookshelf as if the camera would book report itself to us. There was nothing there. A fine layer of dust on top of some paperbacks. A cheap ceramic owl my mom gave me that I keep because it makes her happy. Later, when I was replaying the clip in my head, I realized that Owl's eyes in the video were pointed slightly more toward the kitchen than they were in real life. That could be a trick of angle. It could be. Detective Renteria told me to pack a bag. Think you can avoid doing that on camera? He asked, with a kindness that was complicated. I asked him where I was supposed to go. He said some people go home to their parents when things get weird. And I wanted to laugh because what's weirder than being 31 and arriving with a bag and no way to explain why you left your plant to die on purpose? I ended up back at Jules for 2 more nights and then at my sister's in the suburbs for a week. I kept the playlist tab open but docked in the background like a wound you can't help touching. It kept adding clips. Sometimes they were of me in places I knew I wasn't alone. Crossing a street, standing in line at the pharmacy, reflected in the chrome of a hand dryer. In one, my sister's kids ran behind me with Nerf guns while I chopped onions. and you could see a thin slice of my hand in a stainless steel kettle on the stove. When I told her, she locked the back door even, though it was noon and the sun was loud. I don't have an ending. I have an update. Tonight I drove back to the city because the detective asked me to sign a thing in person, and because at some point you have to stop pretending your life was temporary. My apartment smelled like dust, and the quiet was so loud that I put on the TV just for the hum. I watered the plant even though it's probably past help. I sat at my desk and started writing this because letting air into it feels like the only control I get. I told myself I wouldn't look at the playlist again until I finished. I told myself that if I could shape this into something that could be read, maybe the shape would hold the fear a little. My phone lit up on the desk with that familiar nudge. A new video has been added to a playlist you follow. I didn't touch it. I'm proving it to myself by telling you I didn't. I kept writing. I wrote about the radiator and the owl and the smell of other people's detergent and the way kindness can split you open as efficiently as cruelty. I wrote about a YouTuber who was the adult in the room until he wasn't. I wrote about a detective trying very hard to make a report into a spell. I wrote about Jules's quilt and the hotel's bolted microwave, and the way a black TV can show you that you still exist even when you don't want to. The notification is still sitting there in my bar like a little red dot that eventually becomes your entire day. I don't want to look, I also absolutely do. I can feel the weight of my own curiosity, which is the same thing that got me here. Okay. I looked. The new clip is 10 seconds long. The camera angle is over my shoulder, close enough that I can see the tiny mole on my collarbone I used to be self-conscious about when I was a kid. The frame includes my hands on the keyboard and the exact words of this paragraph as I'm typing them. The final second pans slightly, making a barely there scraping sound, just enough to shift the angle to include in the far edge of the screen the faint ghosted reflection of me in the black bezel of the TV. In that reflection, behind my chair, the darkness looks like a person if you want it to and like a coat on a hook if you need it to. I'm not going to turn around right now. I am going to copy this into the post box and press submit. There will be time after that to decide what the reflection is. There will be time to get up from this chair and learn whether the playlist adds another clip of me learning it. If you don't see me in the comments, it means I made the wrong kind of eye contact with the wrong kind of camera. If you do, don't tell me to calm down. Tell me where you would go if you were me, where there aren't any screens, any glass, any polished surfaces, anywhere that light makes a picture. Tell me if such a place exists anymore, and if it does, whether there's room for one more. I'm writing this from a 24-hour laundromat with all the lights on, and the TV bolted to the ceiling playing a cooking show on mute. I picked this place because it has windows on 3 sides, and because the night clerk keeps glancing up at me like he'll remember my face later. I need to be seen for the next few hours. If you know my channel, you've probably already seen the clips and assumed it's some ARG or viral stunt. It isn't. Please don't DM me asking for links. I won't send them. I wish I could unsee what I saw, but posting this is the only thing I know how to do that might keep someone else from making the same mistake. I run a small horror channel. Nothing crazy. Narrations, weird local stories, the sort of internet folklore that lives in Reddit threads and old Tumblr screenshots. I write scripts, record at my kitchen table, and try to keep the audio clean even when my upstairs neighbor stomps around. My best friend, Maya, helps with thumbnails and tags. We upload twice a week and sometimes go live to answer questions. It's small but steady. It felt good and normal until Wednesday. The rumor of the first upload wasn't new to me. You've heard it too, probably. The idea that before me at the zoo, there was some private video posted to test the platform and it never got deleted, just hidden. People say anyone who finds it disappears within 24 hours. It's the kind of story you cover for October views and then forget. A while back, we recorded a segment about it, picked apart the claims, and ended with the usual, don't go looking for things you don't want to find. We laughed when we cut it. In our thumbnail, I'm making the fake shock face and Maya put an arrow pointing at a blurred out URL. It did well. On Wednesday, a throwaway account messaged me a string of letters and numbers and the subject line, "You asked for this." The body just said, "Play with sound. 24 age. The string looked like a video ID. I started to write back, telling them I don't open random links and to contact me from a real account if they wanted credit. Then I noticed something else. The same message was in our channel email, and in my personal email, and as a DM on my private Instagram that I barely use. The senders were different, but the text was identical, like it had been copy-pasted by 4 people who didn't know each other. I called Maya. She told me to stop hovering like a moth at a porch light and to forward everything to her. We were cautious. That matters here. We didn't click. We typed the string manually into a new tab, just the ID, not a sketchy redirect. It went to a page that said, "This video is private." That was it. No thumbnail, no description, just the usual block. We laughed, relieved, and I said I'd screenshot it for a community post titled, "We Tried." That's when I saw the first weird thing. The watch page had a title for half a second before private covered it. A flicker. It was my channel name, but spelled like a typo. It disappeared so fast I convinced myself I imagined it. We dropped it. I had a script to finish, one about sleep paralysis stories, and I wanted to get it recorded before midnight. To clear my head, I took a walk. It was after 10 p.m., mild, the streetlights buzzing like they always do. When I came back, my phone was full of notifications, new comments, a Discord ping, a text from Maya in all caps. "What did you do?" My channel had a new upload. The title was just the date and the timestamp down to the minute. No tags, no description, no thumbnail. The video was 12 seconds long. The first frame was pure black. The second frame was a smear of gray and green like a damp wall. At the end, if you turned the volume way up, you could hear a human voice whisper something I couldn't make out. I hadn't posted it. I changed my password. I turned on two-factor again just in case I'd broken it. I checked sessions and saw nothing unusual, just my phone and my desktop. I called Maya. She said the upload posted while I was walking. It had 128 views in 5 minutes, all from notifications. And half the comments were people asking if it was part of a series. The other half were saying the audio sounded like, "It's not death, it's forever." It wasn't a joke to me anymore. Neither of us said the words the first upload, but we were thinking them like a tune we couldn't get out of our heads. I tried to delete the video. The delete button worked. It vanished from the list. I refreshed. It was back, same timestamp, same views. We tried again. I made the channel private, the video stayed public. I told myself this was some glitch, some cache nonsense. I stepped out into the hallway to get better reception and realized how quiet my building was. I live in one of those old places with carpet that hides a lot of sins. The overhead light in the hall was out, so the exit sign painted everything a sickly red. For no reason I can explain, I filmed 3 seconds of the carpet with my phone. The audio picked up a sound like wind in a pipe, and then I heard the elevator cables groan, even though the elevator stopped working in May. When I stepped back in, another short video had appeared on my channel. A low shot of a carpet lit red, with the elevator rumbling in the background. It had my shaky breathing at the end. I hadn't uploaded it. At this point, I called the platform support contact I'd only used twice in 5 years. She's a real person named Lynn, who once helped me when a live stream got botted. Lynn picked up, which surprised me at almost midnight. I tried to explain fast, like I knew I was burning credibility with every sentence. Lynn was patient until I said, "This isn't a hack," and mentioned the old rumor. She went quiet. Then she said she'd escalate it and asked me not to touch anything for an hour. "Don't delete, don't private, don't change passwords. You're safe," she said. "It's just a bug." The way she said bug sounded like she didn't believe the word. Maya came over. We dragged 2 chairs in front of my computer like kids waiting for a storm to pass. We scrubbed the audio from the first clip. At 27 dB, hidden under what sounded like AC noise, a voice said, clearly, "It's not death, it's forever." The vowels were stretched like the audio was encoded at the wrong sample rate. Maya looked at me and made a joke I didn't laugh at. "Congrats, you have a catchphrase." She tried to smile again, failed, and squeezed my shoulder. The third video was 20 seconds, then a fourth, 39. Each had the timestamp as its title. Each was a little clearer. None were copies of the others. They showed walls up close, flaking paint with that kind of swollen look. Water gives to drywall. Occasionally the camera would pan left or right and you'd see a hint of a door frame, then another, then another. Every door different wood, different hinges, like the hallway was stitched from buildings that were never neighbors. The light, source never moved. The audio was always the same. Air like a long exhale, my breathing, and a whisper that felt closer. It's not death, it's forever. The views kept climbing. People told us to stop. People told us to keep going. We didn't do either. The videos arrived without us. At 1:02 a.m., my phone vibrated with a new notification. Live now. The thumbnail was pitch black. This time I didn't click. I stood up and stepped back like the screen had burped something noxious into the room. Maya said my name, and when I didn't move, she clicked for me. The live didn't start with an intro or a chat scroll. It cut straight to what looked like a corridor lit by a light you couldn't see. The aspect ratio was wrong, a little wider than standard. The camera moved like it was held at chest height by someone who was too tired to lift their arms. The floor was bare concrete. The walls were that same damp, swollen drywall, and there was a smell I swear came through the speakers, like warm mold and something soured like mop water left in a bucket. I covered my mouth. Maya said, "This is a set, right?" We waited for a brand watermark in the corner. Nothing. I don't want to exaggerate, so I'll tell you exactly what we saw. The camera turned. The hallway went farther than the lens. Should have let it. There were doors on both sides, each of them scabbed with old tape and stickers. Some were padlocked, some weren't. One had a child's height chart penciled on it. The feed stuttered twice and caught up. The whisper came without delay. It wasn't under the mix anymore. It was right against the mic, breathy and patient. It's not death, it's forever. I reached for the power button like I could choke the electricity out of the tower and make it stop. Maya grabbed my wrist. "Keep it on," she said, because in her head the worst thing we could do was be blind. The camera stopped walking. It tilted down. A pair of shoes came into frame, my shoes. Not unique enough to prove anything on their own, but mine had this scuff on the left toe from when I caught it on a curb. The scuff was there. The laces were half untied the way I wear them because I'm lazy. The lens went down a little more. I could see the shadow of my body across the concrete. I spoke. I heard my own voice say Maya's name, scared but trying not to show it, and you could hear in the background someone else saying, "Don't come down here." That voice was thin, like it had to squeeze through a long pipe to reach us. Maya stepped away from the desk and into my hallway like she needed to prove a point to herself. I followed. The overhead light in the hall had come back on. The exit sign glow was gone. Everything looked ordinary. The elevator still had its out-of-order sign. Someone had taped a funny face on it months ago, and the tape was still curled, at the edges. Maya opened the stairwell door and shouted, and her voice came back up the concrete staircase with the familiar echo. We went back to the desk, told ourselves we were being dramatic, and saw that the live had ended. In its place was an upload labeled with the exact minute we'd stepped into the hall. It was 44 seconds long and ended with the sound of a stairwell door latching. At 2:12, Lynn called back. She said in a rush that a known issue with legacy assets had been triggered and that an engineering team was sandboxing the problem. She told me to leave my computer off, turn off my phone, and go somewhere public. She used the phrase "do not engage" like I was arguing with a troll, and then her voice did this thing like she was reading from a screen. "Do not put on headphones," she said. "Do not watch alone. Do not acknowledge the voice." Then, lower, away from the mic. "Remind him about the 24. And then she hung up like someone had pulled the call out of her hand. I told Maya I was heading to the laundromat. She insisted on coming. I told her no, because the only plan I had was this superstition. Split the target, split the spell, whatever this was. She hugged me and said to keep her on a call, even if neither of us said anything. I walked fast. The city felt wrong. The empty spaces between buildings felt wider. Every window I passed had a blue glow like someone was up late watching the same channel. When I got to the laundromat, the night clerk was watching a cooking show, but no sound came out. He told me the speakers broke last week. He didn't ask why I was shaking. I picked a table under a camera and opened my laptop. It booted, and before I could connect to the Wi-Fi, a notification popped saying there were 3 new videos on my channel. Their thumbnails were nothing but darkness. Their views were at 0. I felt stupid and small and angry and said out loud that this wasn't happening. The night clerk looked at me and smiled like he'd seen worse. I did what Lynn said. I didn't click, I didn't engage. I opened a blank document and started typing this. The typing helped, at first. But then my laptop speaker buzzed. The kind of buzz you get when a phone is too close to a cheap cable. My phone was on the other side of the table. The buzz shaped itself into phonemes, round and soft, like someone trying to remember how to talk. It's not death, it's forever. The volume slider in the corner ticked itself up 1 notch at a time. I yanked the cord to the power and the battery died immediately, which wasn't possible because I hadn't been on battery at all, and it had been at 97%. I closed the lid and set it aside like it was a bowl of hot soup I couldn't carry. Maya texted me that a new account had followed her. A duplicate of mine with the same banner and the same videos, and a bio that read, "Found it." The username had an extra underscore, the kind of thing you do when the name you want is taken. People were tagging it, asking for tutorials on how we did the effect. One guy said, "Nice liminal vibes." Someone else said they could smell the damp through their speakers, and did we do that on purpose? Maya said she was going to call the police not because she thought they'd do anything, but because it was something human to do. I told her yes, do the human thing. Officer Cardenas met me at the laundromat while Maya filed the report at my building. He looked at the videos on his phone for a second and then set it face down. He said he didn't like that internet stuff and recommended I get off for the night. I wanted to be mad at him, but I understood. He asked if I'd been followed or harassed. I told him no. He asked what I thought was going to happen at the 24-hour mark. I didn't have words for the shape of it. Saying I will vanish felt dramatic and unhelpful. Saying I think the videos will keep posting without me felt like a bad pitch meeting. I told him I just wanted to sit where people could see me. He said he'd tell the night clerk to keep an eye out. He pointed at the TV and said, "Cooking shows make me hungry at weird hours." Then he left me with a nod that said he couldn't do more, and we both knew it. It's 3:36 a.m. now. The laundromat has one other customer, a woman with a basket full of baby clothes. She keeps looking at her phone and smiling. I want to tell her to put earbuds in and listen to anything else, anything at all, so the whisper won't get in. I won't, because I don't want to be the weirdo who ruins a quiet night. I put my head down and tried to breathe like the room wasn't too big. I checked my channel again. 5 new videos. 1 live scheduled for 5:02 a.m. The title is just a dot. The description field contains 6 words I don't want to paste here. You can guess them. When you watch late at night, you learn that cameras turn people into their own ghosts. You hear the way your mouth makes sounds when you're scared. You see all the doors you've never noticed. In one of the 20-second clips that posted while I was here, I'm in frame. It's my back, and I'm walking toward a corner where the hallway turns. I don't turn. The clip ends before I do. It's nothing, and it's everything. When I close my eyes, I can feel the air in that place. Stale but moving, the way air moves in ducts. Someone is behind me, close enough that when they say the line, I can feel the consonants on the nape of my neck. It's not death, it's forever. There are details I want to file off to make this sound cleaner than it is, but I won't. The whisper doesn't always come from behind. Sometimes it comes from inside the walls. Sometimes when I play the clip without audio, I hear it anyway, in the little clicks of my jaw. Sometimes it sounds like Maya. Once just now it sounded like the night clerk asking if I need change. I jumped and said no so fast that he backed away like I'd bitten him. I apologized and said I'm just working. On a script. He nodded, like people probably say that a lot in here. Maya sent me a screenshot of my channel analytics. The content you might like row is full of other people's channels posting hallways too. Names I recognize from our niche. People we've collabed with. A girl from Portland who outgrew all of us last year. A guy who vanished off Twitter 2 months ago after a mental health break. They're all uploading a trickle of gray and green and wet plaster. One of the thumbnails shows a shape in the distance that could be a person or a coat on a nail. Another has a reflection in a broken exit sign. Someone with a camera where their face should be. If you're still reading, you're probably shouting at your screen that all we had to do was not type the string. Maybe you're right. But the thing you don't learn from the big channels is that most of us do it because our corners of the night feel like a community. The rumor lived in that community. We treated it like a story you snack on and put back on the shelf. I didn't go hunting for it. It came to me. That's the part I can't make fit with anything reasonable. I can hear my old English teacher in my head saying the word hubris softly like a parent tucking a child in. Maybe that's all this is. I was warned. Maya's last text before her bubble went gray said she heard footsteps in the stairwell again. She wrote, "Tell me something normal." I told her that the best coffee I ever had was at a rest stop at 3 a.m. when I was 22 and thought I'd made a mistake moving to the city. I told her that the laundromat smells like warm metal and lemon, and that the woman with the baby clothes folded a onesie wrong and laughed at herself when she fixed it. I told her that when this is over, I'm taking a week offline, and we're going to eat bad diner pancakes until it's funny. She didn't respond. I called, straight to voicemail. I know how this sounds. If I heard it on someone else's channel, I'd pause at certain lines and think about how I'd fake that effect. I'd look at the bit rate, the grain, the way artificial reverb sits on a voice. I'd say, you can do that with a plugin. You can. You can do almost anything with a plugin if you accept a seam here and there. The thing in my videos has no seams. The thing in my videos has a smell. It's past 4 now. The scheduled live is in less than an hour. I'm going to leave my laptop closed and my phone off. I'm going to keep my eyes on the streetlights. If you're reading this before the live, don't tune in. Don't record it. Don't fill the comments with skull emojis and jokes about backrooms. Don't quote the line. The voice eats its own. Echo. If you've already watched, I don't know if that counts as finding it. I think the 24 starts when you pay attention. I think it started for me the moment I stopped laughing at the rumor and keyed that string in. Maybe it started the first time I said the words on my channel with my dumb, shocked face in the thumbnail. Maybe it started for you when you opened this post. I keep checking the door. The laundromat's machines hum like a big steady heart. The TV is still stuck on the cooking show. The woman with the basket left without looking at me. The night clerk is scrolling through his phone with his mouth slightly open. For a second, his expression goes slack like he's listening to someone. Then he straightens and rubs his ear. I want to ask him what he heard. I won't. I'll sit here under the camera where this place remembers me as a person with a body weight and a heat signature, and I'll try to remember the sound a real stairwell door makes when it closes. It's heavy, and then it fits itself into its frame with a rubbery sigh. If my channel keeps posting after today, you'll know what happened. There'll be a video every few minutes. They'll get longer. Eventually, one of them will be me turning the corner and you'll see my face. If that happens, do me a favor and don't tell me what it looks like. Don't see if the eyes blink. Don't analyze frame by frame for the fun of it. Don't listen with headphones. If you find a link in your inbox that looks like a random ID, don't be brave and smart. Be boring. Delete it and then delete the trash. I'm not asking for a promise. Promises on the internet mean nothing. I'm asking you to let me fail alone. I don't think the hallway is a place, not the way a basement or a motel is. I think it's a path. I think it grows where enough attention leans in the same direction. I think camera sensors love it because they're hungry for low light and flat surfaces. That makes it sound like I understand any of this. I don't. I'm tired. The laundromat clock ticks loud enough to hear. It's 4:58 a.m. If I stop typing, it's only so I can put my hands in my pockets and sit on them so I don't touch anything I shouldn't. If I vanish, it won't be with a bang. It'll be as easy as walking a little too far down a blank hallway while a voice suggests that maybe this isn't the end. It's just a different kind of time. It's not death. It's forever. I'm telling you that because that's what it told me, and because writing it here might peel it off my tongue and leave it stuck to the screen instead. If that's how this works, if it needs a screen to speak through, then closing my laptop was the smartest thing I've done in years. If it isn't, then this is me waving from a well. Either way, the live will start in 4 minutes. I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to count ceiling tiles until the sun edges in and the cooking show changes to local news and the noise of other people gets too loud for whispers. If you never hear from me again, assume I took a long walk somewhere you can't follow. If you do and I sound like I'm speaking through a mouthful of old water, don't answer. Don't be polite. Don't come down here. I know how this is going to sound, but I'm going to write it the way I'd tell a friend if we were sitting at the kitchen table after midnight. I run a small beauty channel, skin care, budget dupes, hair masks that don't fry your ends. I'm not big. 140,000 subs sounds like a lot until you realize half of them have me on mute while they do their makeup. I'm 26. I rent a one-bedroom that was painted landlord white at least 5 times. And my closest thing to an assistant is Jules, my mod who lives 2 time zones away and keeps the spam out of my comments. My boyfriend, Armin, does IT and pretends he doesn't understand the algorithm, which is a lie because he always knows when I'm shadow banned before I do. My next-door neighbor is a retired cable installer named Ortega, who smokes on the landing and tells me when my packages are thrown halfway into the stairwell. It's just normal life. Or it was before the thumbnails. It started with a Tuesday upload, the kind of video that pays the electrical bill. Drugstore lip stains that don't budge. I shot it on the weekend, edited on Monday, scheduled for Tuesday. Thumbnail, me, laughing with my head tilted so you could see the color on my lower lip. I export them out of Photoshop 3 sizes and test them on my phone to make sure the text doesn't get tiny. I am unfortunately very good at thumbnails. They matter more than the video. You learn that fast. Tuesday morning I did the ritual, coffee, Creator Studio refresh, and the thumbnail looked wrong. I mean familiar wrong, like when compression crushes the whites and you look a little dead. But when I tapped it, I saw what was off. My smile was wider. Not cartoon exaggeration, just maybe 15% too much. My gums were showing in a way I never show them because I'm weird about it. The title text I'd placed, does it last 12 hours? Was fine. Crisp, exactly where I centered it. Only my mouth was different. I figured I exported the wrong version or saved the PSD over the JPG. I reopened the project. In Photoshop, the thumbnail was perfect. Normal smile, the lip stain, the color of strawberries left in a bowl overnight. I re-exported, overwrote, waited. It looked normal on desktop. 2 hours later, after comments started coming in, it looked wrong again on my phone. And then someone commented, "Girl, why your gums red?" with a skull emoji. I zoomed in. The thumbnail, the public one, showed a faint blush along the gum line. Not dripping or anything, just that too pink look you get after flossing like a maniac before a dentist appointment. In my video, there's a full-screen close-up of my lips. They looked perfectly fine there. The weirdness only lived in the small square that told the world to click. I texted Jules. He said it was a flag-flipping thing like YouTube doing A/B tests. He right-clicked, copied image address, opened on his end. He saw the same too wide. Smile. "Maybe it's sharpening, making your lips look bigger," he typed. Then 5 minutes later, "LOL, okay, weird. I saved your thumbnail to my desktop. It's saved normal. When I upload it to Imgur, it's normal. When I paste it back into chat here, it's normal. But on your video page, it's the wide one." By that night, 3 of my older thumbnails looked slightly off too, like a filter was nudging my mouth into something toothier. I pulled those down and replaced them. Creator Studio showed the replacements. Public View showed versions that made me look like I was trying hard to sell a toothpaste brand without acknowledging the toothpaste. Armin said it was probably caching. He cleared my cache. We tried private browser windows. It kept happening. We both started laughing because it felt like the only rational response. 2 adults crouched over a laptop going, "Why is her mouth bigger?" I woke up the next morning with a soreness in the corners of my mouth, the kind I sometimes get after shooting 3 intro takes in a row with big energy. It wasn't bad, just a stinging when I stretched my face to yawn. When I brushed my teeth, I tasted metal for a second. I told myself it was a cut from a chip. The thumbnails were worse. I had a brand integration scheduled Friday with a serum company that makes little glass bottles with droppers, and their rep, a woman named Clara with a flat voice, emailed to say she loved the content but asked if I could soften my smile to appear more approachable. I reread that line 3 times. I sent her my unlisted link and screen caps. "My smile is fine," I wrote back. She replied with a screenshot of my public thumbnail and ended the email with, "We'll need to approve any thumbnail refreshes. Thank you." On Thursday, Jules called me. He never calls. He said, "Don't freak out. I think it's a bug." But 2 Reddit threads just went up on our Creator Lounge. People are posting your thumbnails asking if you're doing a bit. I searched the threads. It wasn't cruel, just that internet tone that's halfway between concern and dogpile. "Teeth are a little much, bestie. Gingivitis arc?" Someone had posted a collage, 6 thumbnails from my channel all in a row, the smiles increasing with this uncanny slope. Underneath they added, "Is she okay?" I wanted to write that I was, but even typing that made the sting in my mouth flare, and I didn't, because it sounded like a lie. Friday morning I went to my dentist because it was easier to explain a medical appointment to a brand rep than to explain an algorithm haunting my face. Dr. Shaw peered into my mouth and told me my gums looked a little inflamed, which could be stress, could be my brush, could be nothing. "Are you using any whitening strips, Mime?" he asked. I said no because I haven't since high school. He told me to switch to a soft toothbrush and sent me home with a little sample of a rinse that tastes like regret. I bought a humidifier on the way home, like moisture could fix any of this. I filmed the serum integration. I pulled my smile way back, barely showed any teeth. The raw footage looks like me. The exported thumbnail on my hard drive looks like me. The second it hit public view, my mouth widened a fraction on one side, then the other, until it was teeth forward, in a way that would have made my orthodontist proud. That night I taped a Post-it over the bathroom mirror. I don't think I was fully conscious of doing it until I stepped back and saw the neon square in the center. Ortega shouted from the stairwell that a package had arrived for me, and by the time I took the Post-it off, the mirror made me flinch. I wasn't smiling. My face was neutral, tired. But the reflection looked like I'd just heard a dirty joke and was trying not to laugh. It was tiny. Mouth corners lifted maybe 3 millimeters. But I wasn't doing that. I raised a hand and pinched my own cheek to make sure the mirror wasn't lagging or something stupid. The reflection pinched. The mouth kept that hint of cheerful. I held my breath, and the mirror me breathed in too fast, like she had been waiting to laugh. My throat went cold. I grabbed my phone to take a picture, and the moment I lifted the camera, the reflection snapped back to match me, dead on, no smirk, pure neutral. I didn't sleep much. Around 3, my phone lit my room with that pale blue notification bar. It was an email from Security Cam Cloud, the stupid third-party thing my building uses that sends us footage when the motion detector goes off in the hallway. Subject: motion detected 3:13 a.m. The clip showed my door from the side. 30 seconds of empty staircase. Then, out of nowhere, me. Standing in front of my door facing it, hands limp at my sides. The camera angle only caught my profile and a slice of my mouth, but even in that shadowed grayscale, the curve of my lips was high and wrong. It looked carved there. I checked my phone's screen time. It showed I was on TikTok until 1:08 a.m. and then nothing until the notification. Armin said I probably got up half asleep to get water. I do that sometimes. He said the smile was just the way the light hit my face. I wanted that to be true so badly I almost let myself believe it. I didn't tell Jules about the mirror. I did tell him about the hallway camera. He said, "Weird, but not crazy weird." Then he paused and said, "Can you check your previous thumbnails?" I went to my channel page and scrolled. A 6-month-old sunscreen video now had my lips peeled into some kind of glossy grin. Not outrageous, but new. A 2-year-old review of a drugstore foundation, the video that bought me my couch, showed the same stretch. I clicked the original files in the folder labeled "Keep Do Not Touch." They were normal, I felt like I was trying to hold onto a rope that was slowly being pulled out of my hands. Saturday, I got a box in the mail from a brand I didn't recognize. The label said Smile More Labs. Inside were those little foam trays you heat in boiling water and bite into to make a mold. A glossy card. Welcome to the Smile More family. Can't wait to see that smile shine. I searched my email. I had never accepted that sponsorship. I didn't even remember a conversation about it. I threw the box into the back of my closet, and when it slipped off the shoe rack and the molded trays clattered, I slammed the door like a child. That afternoon, I went live on Instagram because something in me thought if I showed my face moving in real time, it would anchor me back in the version of myself that existed before this. Comments were normal at first. You look so fresh. Hair tutorial when? And then someone typed, why is your smile weird? The chat started to fill. She's baring her teeth. LOL, that grin. I wasn't smiling. My lips were pressed together. I yelled at the chat, I am not smiling, which made me sound unhinged, and at the bottom right corner of my own live, where I could see my face, my mouth was spreading. The video was flipping me a grin I could feel only when I looked at it. I swiped down to end the live. Those 30 seconds are still on a compilation channel, I think. I can't make myself watch it. Armand came over with takeout. He said I needed sleep, food, less screen time. He said it like a recipe. We ate soy-glazed salmon and he made me laugh, and I tried to hold the laugh inside my chest where no camera could see it. Later, he took my phone and set my Face ID to alternate appearance, and he had me not smile for the scan. Eyes flat, lips flat, no emotion. Now it'll unlock even when you're not smiling, he said. The next morning, my phone buzzed with face not recognized 3 times. On the 4th, it unlocked with a cheerful chime as I stared blankly at it. Ain't that a metaphor? I deleted Face ID. By Sunday, a subreddit I had never heard of before had made me a pet conspiracy. Thumbnails changing without creator consent turned into platform applying vanity filters. Someone DM'd me a link to a guy who stitched one of my videos and said I'd signed a contract with an AI startup. I hadn't signed anything. The only contract I'd signed that week was for a serum with hyaluronic acid and a very politely threatening clause about brand image compliance. Their rep, Clara, emailed to approve my ad, but requested one change. Please, 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 fix the thumbnail, I wrote back, attaching a copy of the file on my desktop and the public one side by side. Her reply was one line, the public one is great. Then, in a second email, we do not endorse bleeding imagery. Please apply a bandage if needed. Bleeding imagery. I kept thinking I was misunderstanding every third word I read. I stopped, filming for 2 days. I covered the bathroom mirror with a towel. I used the microwave as a mirror to smear sunscreen on, and they are not built for that. I took exactly 2 pictures on my phone, both of my hands holding a coffee mug. On Tuesday night, I checked my channel for the first time since going live, and there was a video scheduled for Wednesday that I hadn't scheduled. Title: Every Product I Actually Use. It was a normal kind of catch-all video, and the body, text in the description was copy-pasted from an older upload. The thumbnail was me with the biggest smile yet, teeth huge, gums pink enough to match my blush. I clicked Unschedule. It disappeared from the Schedule tab. I went back a page, refreshed. It was back. I called Jules. He said he didn't have collaborator access to my uploads. He couldn't see my schedule. I gave him my login over the phone, and even saying it out loud made me feel like I was handing over something dumb and secret, like a diary. He logged in and said, "This is wild, there's nothing in your scheduled. But when I view as public, there's a premiere countdown for tomorrow at noon." I told him to delete everything. I listened to him typing. He said he deleted. We refreshed. The premiere remained. "Maybe it'll error out when it tries to run," he said. "Remember when your NYE stream failed?" I nodded before remembering he couldn't see me nod and said, "Yeah." After we hung up, I took an aspirin for the ache in my jaw. It was worse. The corners of my mouth felt like I'd been at the dentist with the little hook pulling my lips. Back for too long. I woke up before dawn on Wednesday, sat on the couch, and listened to the building. Pipes knocking, someone's TV low under the floor, the neighbor's alarm. At 10 a.m., Ortega knocked on my door. He held his phone upside down like dads do and asked if I could help him with that YouTube thing. I took his phone. It was our building's app, not YouTube. Another motion alert. The clip showed the elevator doors opening and me stepping out, smiling so hard it crinkled the corners of my eyes. The timestamp said 4:11 a.m. I wore the t-shirt I had slept in. I was barefoot. I walked straight to my door and then the clip ended. "You on something?" Ortega asked in that not judging way older men have when they've seen enough, and I said, "I don't think so." He said nothing else, but as he went back down the stairs, I saw him touch the little gold cross under his shirt. At noon, the premiere started on its own. 3,000 live viewers, 10,000. The chat was a slot machine of emojis. The video that played was footage I had shot last summer, a simple "get ready with me," with the air conditioner humming. Only it was cut in a way I'd never cut and scored with that royalty-free song I use when I'm too tired to search for new music. My voice sounded like me. I did my brows. I smiled at the camera once at the end, nothing excessive. But the thumbnail, what the platform shows you before you click, wasn't that. It was me with a grin that reached almost to the corners of my eyes, showing every tooth like a child at the dentist saying, "Ah." I tried to end the stream and the button grayed out and told me to try again later. When it finally let me, the replay had already posted. That night I made a choice that was probably stupid. I filmed a confession video. Not the "hey guys" kind with sad music and a black hoodie, but a plain one with me sitting on my couch with the overhead light too bright, telling the camera that something was happening to my face online and maybe, now, off. I said I was not in on a bit. I said I had not partnered with a smile company. I said if some part of code was pushing a new feature, I did not consent. I promised I would not schedule it. I would upload it unlisted and then make it public immediately so the thumbnail had no time to warp. I held a printed photo of my intended thumbnail next to the screen so the people watching could compare it to the live one. It was a white card with "I am not smiling" written in black marker and my mouth closed in the photo like a child's drawing. I uploaded the file. The unlisted thumbnail loaded identical to the photo in my hand. I went to toggle public. The page moved under my mouse like a dog shifting when you try to pat it in sleep. When it refreshed, the video was public and the thumbnail was me again, smiling like a stock photo on a dental poster. The card in my hand looked like I had drawn it just to make the joke land, and the comments said so. Something inside me gave up the way people give up mid-run and start walking. I printed another card. I printed 6. I taped one over the bathroom mirror and one over the microwave. I taped one on the back of my phone. I taped one to the fridge next to the do not spend budget note that I never follow. When the soreness in my mouth got sharper, like paper cuts at both corners, I dabbed at them with tissue and saw the faintest blush of red. Not dramatic, not horror, just skin that didn't want to be pulled anymore. I pressed 2 butterfly bandages across them because my brain supplies solutions even when life feels like a different channel. I slept on the couch with the lamp on. I woke to the sound of my camera shutter. I sat up, heart beating fast enough to make me dizzy, and stared at the shelf where I keep my camera. The lens cap was on. The shutter sound had come from my phone. It lay face down on the coffee table. The screen was black. On the black screen, faintly, I saw my reflection, smiling. The kind of smile that belongs to someone else wearing your face. At 6:12 a.m., I wrote an email to YouTube support that I know will never be read, attached 8 screenshots, and typed, "I understand bugs. I don't understand changes that follow me into the mirror." I didn't send it. What was I asking for? Around 9, Clara from the serum brand called. Her voice was still flat. She said her team had decided to press pause on the partnership because of brand safety concerns. She paused and then added, "I hope you get well soon," like I had a cold. I hung up and flipped my phone over, and the lock screen showed a new notification from Creator Studio. "Your latest upload is performing better than usual." I hadn't uploaded anything since the confession. I opened the app. A new video was live. It was titled, All My Secrets. I felt this pure childish urge to run. There was nowhere to run inside a one-bedroom with 5 doors that all just opened to other parts of the same tiny life. I tapped the video and it was, impossibly, the footage I had shot the night before of me confessing, but cut to remove my words and leave me smiling quietly between each cut. Over it, captions I did not add. Smile even when it hurts. The thumbnail was me with those butterfly bandages at the corners of my mouth grinning underneath them. I tore the bandages off without thinking and hissed when the skin lifted. Jules called and didn't say hello. He said, "Your video is trending." I said, "Please don't." He said, "I think you should go stay with Armin." I told him I didn't want Armin to see me like this, and Jules swore. "He's usually careful with language," he said. "I don't think this is internet anymore." I asked him how it wouldn't be because my only life is the internet. He said, "Go look at your bathroom mirror." I didn't want to. He said, "I'm on FaceTime. Take me with you." I set the phone down on the sink and pulled the towel away. For a second, there was nothing. Just me, tired face, the place where the paper bandage had stuck pink. Then the reflection smiled. It was slow, like a cue from off stage. The skin at the corners held, didn't tear, it just complained. I touched my cheek, and the reflection didn't. It kept smiling. I started to shake in that embarrassing way where your shoulders bounce and your jaw trembles. Jules was quiet on the phone. He took a screenshot without asking. I heard the little shutter sound on his end and wanted to scream. He said, Okay, put the towel back." That afternoon, my buildings manager sent an email to all tenants saying someone had been propping the front door open at night and to please stop. The attached still showed a hand, just the fingers holding the latch open. The nail polish was the color I was wearing. I checked my tube. It was capped. That evening, Armin came over even though I told him not to. He sat on the floor and leaned, his head back on the couch cushion, and said, "Please let me take your computer." I laughed because that sounded like a line from a bad movie, but I let him. He unplugged my external hard drive and logged out of my accounts and set up two-factor with an app that doesn't use texts. "There," he said. "Now whatever this is, it can't get in." He smiled at me with his small, normal smile, and I felt love and terror in equal amounts. I wanted to catch that normalcy and pin it like a butterfly. He left at 10. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A new device has logged in. It was mine. I was holding it. I tapped Secure Your Account, and the app stalled. When it came back, there was a new schedule entry, Friday, 3 p.m. Final routine. I unscheduled it. It reappeared. I unscheduled it again and again until my finger slipped and I hit premiering. The countdown started at the top of my channel. I put my head down on the table and started to laugh because there was nothing else left to do that wouldn't be crying. It is Friday now, 1:37 p.m. I am writing this on a blank document with my Wi-Fi turned off, tethered to nothing but the lamp's hum. My bathroom mirror is covered. My phone is on the hall table under a towel. The corners of my mouth ache in a clean, tight way, like sneakers laced too hard. I have this stupid little roll of medical tape on the coffee table and the butterfly, bandages I cursed earlier. I keep thinking about that Smile More box with the foam trays as if biting into them could build a wall. I haven't opened my front door since Ortega's knock. When I walk by the peephole, I swear I hear a faint click like a camera. If you go to my channel at 3 and there's a video, please don't watch it. Do not click. That is the only request I feel safe making. If you see a thumbnail with a grin, please remember that is not the face I am making inside my own head. Remember that thumbnails are only supposed to be bait for attention. Nothing deserves to be attention forever. I need to say one more thing because the truth feels like a life raft. Last night, after I taped the towel back over the mirror, I let myself look at the glass above my kitchen sink. It's not a real mirror. It's a cheap metal backsplash that isn't polished enough to show detail. I stood there and my shape looked like a watercolor of a person. The mouth was a smudge. I breathed in and out and the smudge didn't move. I felt safe because I couldn't see myself clearly enough to be judged. Then a smile etched itself into the blur. It didn't belong to a face, it just existed floating there, a curve carved into fog. I turned away so fast I made myself dizzy. This is the part where I'm supposed to tell you a lesson, I guess. Don't feed the algorithm. Don't make yourself the product. But I did. I liked it. I liked being a rectangle worth clicking. I liked how, when I smiled on purpose, I could feel the air shift in a room, even if the room was only me and a tripod. That is how this happens, I think. Not curses or haunted code. Just a smile practiced too long in a place that wanted it more than I did. It's 2:58. A push notification just lit the underside of the towel on my phone. I can read it through the fabric like sunlight through skin. Your video is starting soon. I press tape along the corners of my mouth. Not because I'm trying to stage anything, but because it actually helps. It reminds my face where it's supposed to end. I'm going to hit upload on this text through a backup account. If you're reading this, it means the connection was strong enough for a second. I can already picture the thumbnail the platform would put on this story if it could. Me, the corners of my mouth tugged sharper than comfort. It would make the white of my teeth the brightest white on the page. It would ignore the bandage, or maybe make it center stage. Someone will screenshot. Someone will do side-by-sides. Someone will ask if I'm okay. I'm okay as long as I don't look. I'm okay as long as nobody asks me to smile. There's a soft little sound outside my door, like someone is testing the latch, and before I stand up and go press my palm against the wood, I want to write this last line. When the premiere goes live in 2 minutes, the thumbnail will show you something you're not supposed to see. If it looks like my face peeled back, it isn't. I still have a face. I am wearing it right now. I just wish I remembered what it felt like to put it on before a camera did it for me.